This podcast of the Equine Forum is brought to you by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business. It all begins in 15 seconds right after this word from our podcast sponsor.
The University of Louisville Equine Industry Program at the College of Business is now offering a graduate certificate, which can be completed in 15 or 30 weeks and be done as a standalone or used as 20% of your MBA. Classes at both the undergraduate and graduate level are forming now for August.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This horse, literally, has been one of the easiest ones. The easiest good horse I've trained maybe in my whole career. I mean, he is literally flawless. He has no soundness issues, no health issues that you have to worry about. Horses have come through the barn that every morning you walk in and hope they're okay. With him, you just walk in and expect him to be okay.
Final 16th of a mile, and Cyclone Mischief is getting away. Nice performance here from the son of Into Mischief. Cyclone Mischief is in front.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
But it's Holy Bull winning like a champion with devastating ease. Holy Bull tied with the best horses in training. He wins by 5 lengths.
Messier turns it on at the top of the stretch, and he is making his mark on the 3-year-old crop. It's Messier putting on a dazzling display, opening up by 10, by 12. Messier all alone in the Robert B. Lewis Stakes.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. It is post time for the show that launched a network. It is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, happy to have you back in the starting gate with me right up until 11 a.m. Eastern on Sirius 216 XM 204, affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, and streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net. And don't forget, you can also listen to podcasts of this show and all of our shows during the week, wherever you are accessing your podcasts. Well, I considered going with a Holy Bull montage to open the show, as this is a celebratory day for all of us Holy Bull fans around the world. But remembering the great Holy Bull with the Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream later today is just one of the many storylines in racing this weekend. The Robert B. Lewis Stakes at Santa Anita has produced 3 Kentucky Derby winners, with a 4th horse, if you recall, Medina Spirit, crossing the finish line first before being disqualified, of course. So it's been a very productive Derby stepping stone. No trainer in the history of that race, since it was introduced as the Santa Catalina Handicap back in 1935, has saddled more winners than trainer Bob Baffert. He's won the race on 10 separate occasions, including each of the past 4 years, and that streak will not come to an end this afternoon, because all 4 entrants in today's Robert B. Lewis are trained by Baffert. And last week, if you recall, I visited with trainer Ryan Hanson, who saddled the only horse not trained by Bob Baffert in the 4-horse Grade 2 San Vicente Stakes at Santa Anita. Hanson's horse, Manchild, by the way, wound up last in the field of 4 behind the other 3 Baffert runners. This is a horrific situation in California right now. And when I get to the final segment of today's show, I Ask, They Answer, with Dale and Tim, that comes up at 10:30 Eastern, I'm going to ask them what California needs to do to fix this. Can it even be fixed is maybe a better question. After my conversation with Ryan Hanson last week, I received an email from a listener who pointed out the fact that 14 of the 16 horses nominated to today's Robert B. Lewis Stakes are trained by Bob Baffert. And that's not Bob's fault. He shouldn't apologize for having an embarrassment of riches. But it does speak to a growing problem in racing where major ownership groups partner to purchase top horses at the sales. They send those quote-unquote elite horses, at least the horses they hope and anticipate are going to be elite after they purchase them. They send those horses to a select number of elite trainers. And this is what you get. You get 4 horses in the San Vicente, 3 of those trained by one person. And you get 4 horses in the Robert B. Lewis, all 4 trained by one person. And I'm not sure the problem can be fixed. California has always been its own entity in racing. It's always been kind of on an island out there. But the purses have always been strong, so in years past, it was no problem to ship your horse out there and run for big money. But now with the purses increasing in the Midwest, increasing on the East Coast, the incentive for the connections of these horses based in the Midwest and the East Coast to go west to California isn't there. And the horse population in Southern California just isn't there. But back to the owners for a minute. Why should owners have to apologize for making a sound business decision? When I've asked owners what advice they have for a new owner looking to get into the game, I've asked that question many times here on the show over the years. One common answer is, quote, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spread your risk by allowing smaller shares in multiple horses, by owning smaller shares in multiple horses, and give yourself an opportunity to hit a home run with one of those horses. But don't put all your eggs in one basket and just soak all your funds into one horse and hope that that horse turns out to be the next super horse. So you can't really fault the ownership groups for pooling their resources. You can't fault them for wanting to spread their investments and put their investments in the hands of the sport's top trainers. That's what you should do. And, of course, they expect those trainers, in theory, to give them the best opportunity to succeed. And you can't fault the elite trainers for taking that business. What is somebody like Bob Baffert or Todd Pletcher or Steve Asmussen or Bill Mott or Chad Brown, what is somebody in that position supposed to do? Mark Casse, you take the business. So you can't fault the trainers. You really can't fault the owners for diversifying their portfolio. So I don't know if the problem really can be fixed without more horses in Southern California. And California racing has struggled with several issues for a long time now. What does the industry do to ensure that that situation we're seeing play out in the 3-year-old races in California doesn't eventually become a problem at other tracks around the country? Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin will answer those questions and many more in the final segment of today's show at 10:30 Eastern. The horse which is expected to be favored in the Robert B. Lewis is Arabian Lion, who looks to rebound from a disappointing fifth-place finish in the Los Alamitos Futurity last time out. He adds blinkers today and retains the services of Hall of Fame jockey John Velazquez, who is going to be with me at 9 o'clock Eastern to discuss Arabian Lion and look back on last weekend's huge win in the Southwest Stakes aboard Arabian Knight. That effort, winning by nearly 6 lengths, that effort immediately had some people thinking we might be looking at the next American Pharaoh. We'll see. Still a long way to go, but Arabian Knight is very, very talented. I'll ask Johnny that. I'll ask him, should we be looking at this horse as the next American Pharaoh, or should people be pumping the brakes a little bit at this point? He's only had 2 starts. Yeah, I know. They've both been impressive. But let's see more. Jockey Junior Alvarado guided Art Collector to a somewhat unexpected win in the Pegasus World Cup last Saturday. He gets a leg up aboard another Bill Mott trainee, Rocket Can, in today's Holy Bull Stakes. I'll welcome Junior to the show at 9:40. Yesterday, cool story here. Yesterday was the 34-year anniversary of then 19-year-old apprentice jockey Nate Hubbard being flipped off his horse in a race at Golden Gate Fields, essentially going over the handlebars like you would on a bike. Somehow, Nate held on to the neck of Sweetwater Oak while dangling his feet above the racetrack, and he finished second in that race. The stewards awarded the horse second place. stating that Hubbard's feet never touched the ground and the horse carried the assigned weight all the way to the finish. Well, NBC announcer Larry Collmus was calling races at Golden Gate at that time, and he had the call of that bizarre finish. He's going to be with me later in the first hour of the show at 8:35 to share his memories of that race. He'll also spend some time talking about Holy Bull and the Holy Bull Stakes coming up at Gulfstream this afternoon. Larry had the chance to call Holy Bull, of course, at Monmouth Park in the Haskell. I'm also going to spend some time talking about the Ashford Stallions this morning with Coolmore's Michael Norris. And I'll bring you an incredibly heartwarming story about a 30-year-old thoroughbred and his human counterpart who have developed an incredible bond throughout the course of his retirement. That comes up in Unsung Heroes at 9:20. So here's the lineup for you. Michael Norris from Ashford, going to kick it off in just a few minutes at 8:15. Larry Collmus at 8:35. Johnny V at 9 o'clock. Unsung Heroes at 9:20. At 9:40, I welcome jockey Junior Alvarado. 10 o'clock, Vance Hanson will be with me to give you this week's TwinSpires triple play. 10:20, Kurt Becker will take you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I ask, they answer with trainer Dale Romans, turf writer Tim Wilkin. Poll question for this morning. Which race later today is most likely to produce the Kentucky Derby winner? Holy Bull, Robert B. Lewis, Swale, or Kitten's Joy? I know it's a turf race. Doesn't mean that those horses can't make a move to the dirt and take a shot. Which race later today is more likely to produce the Kentucky Derby winner? I'll give you the four choices: the Holy Bull, the Robert B. Lewis, the Swale, and the Kitten's Joy. Let me know which you think it's going to be. You can go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. And if you don't do social media, no problem there. Simply email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let me know which of those races you feel is more likely to produce the Kentucky Derby winner. We're not saying it's going to happen, but if it does happen from one of those four, which one will it be? A lot to get to over the next 3 hours. It kicks off with Michael Norris talking about the Ashford Stallions. That's next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Airdrie Stud is proud to announce the arrival of Grade 1 winning millionaire Happy Saver for the 2023 season. Happy Saver boasts one of the most important female families of the century, as his third dam is Broodmare of the Year Weekend Surprise, dam of the legendary AP Indy. Undefeated in his first 5 starts, Happy Saver capped off his perfect 4-for-4 season with an emphatic victory in the historic Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
And Happy Saver stays undefeated. He steps up and he wins the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup.
Airdrie Studs, Happy Saver. Think about it.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the championship meet, with live racing Wednesday through Sunday. Don't miss the Triple Crown prep races, including the Fountain of Youth on March 4th and Florida Derby on April 1st. Enjoy the races outdoors from Carousel Club or feast in 10 Palms, offering a premium view of the races. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, visit GulfstreamPark.com.
Adina Stallions set the gold standard, all number 1 in their category. Point of entry, the number 1 stallion by black type and greatest stakes winners standing in Canada.
Oh, the classy point of entry would not be denied.
Shaman Ghost, the number 1 second crop sire standing in Canada.
It's Shaman Ghost, an overwhelming force in the last 16th of a mile.
Signature Red, the number 1 stallion by percentage of black type winners standing in Canada.
Signature Red won his second Hybrider in a row.
And Silent Name, the #1 stallion by percentage of black-type performers standing in Canada. A list that includes Grade 1 winner Silent Poet.
Silent Poet in front, Admiralty Pier out the ground, but Silent Poet has won the Highlander Stakes.
And don't forget Adina's new sire, American Guru. His first crop are now yearlings of 2023. American Guru, the son of Unbridled Song, whose family have already set their gold standards around the world.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Arabian Knight and Frosted Departure 1-2. Jace's Road has flattened out. So Arabian Knight and Frosted Departure are the two off the top of the turn. Arabian Knight a length in front of Frosted Departure in second. Here is Red Route 1 erupting from the back of the pack, but he is still 6 lengths behind his front-running favorite, Arabian Knight. And now he's 4 in front. Red Route 1 might get second. He will not win the Southwest. That winner is Arabian Knight. Arabian Knight won by 6 lengths. Red Route 1 did get second. Frosted Departure third. Sun Thunder fourth.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on this Saturday morning. 91 days, 9 hours, 29 minutes, and 19 seconds away from the Run for the Roses, May 6th at Churchill Downs. And Arabian Knight, 2 for 2 with that impressive win. Vic Stauffer had the call of the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn last weekend. He is hoping to be at Churchill Downs in 91 days, competing in that Run for the Roses, and that would be just fine with Michael Norris and the team at Coolmore and Ashford Stud in Versailles. Michael heads up nomination sales. Of course, Arabian Knight is a son of their stallion, Uncle Mo, and Uncle Mo has been fantastic as a stallion, and this is just the latest star on the horizon for him. Michael is with me now. Michael, good morning, my friend.
Morning, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, really excited to talk about the Coolmore Stallions. And let's just start with Arabian Knight. Man, what a performance, huh?
Yeah, look, he's amazing. He's gone 2 for 2 for Bob Baffert. He ran a 96 Fire in the Southwest. And at this point, he looks like the one to beat for sure. And just Uncle Mo himself, last year, producing Golden Pal, Mo Donegal, it reflects in the sales ring. His weanlings were averaging 350,000 almost, yearlings 300,000, 2-year-olds 300,000 all averages. So he really is becoming a sire that even at the 150,000 stud fee, he's looking like one of the best value stallions in the country.
Yeah, I would say that's 100% correct. He continues to just year in and year out get these top runners and big horses, and it's kind of neat when you see him year in and year out on the Triple Crown Trail on the road to the Kentucky Derby, because let's face it, the Kentucky Derby is the race, whether it's in the United States or Canada or South America or around the world. You ask people what race they are familiar with, they might not know any other race in thoroughbred racing, but they know the Kentucky Derby. So when you have a horse year in and year out by one of your stallions on the Derby Trail, it just, it does so much for that stallion, doesn't it, Michael?
Absolutely. We're very lucky to have him. He's done an awful lot for us. And like you said, that first Saturday in May, everyone aims towards that. So to have a horse like Arabian Knight this year, it really is special for us, standing Uncle Mo. And, there's a lot of good horses this year for Uncle Mo. Every year he produces great race horses on the turf, on the dirt. We have another horse with Wesley Ward called Go On Mo. He won his debut on the turf last week. Great style. Wesley is very excited, and there's a lot of similarities between him and Golden Pal. He'll be looking for stake options in his next start, and he's just the horse that keeps on giving.
Obviously his resume speaks for itself, but in your position, Michael, with nomination sales, when you have a horse like Arabian Knight that just continues to show his brilliance, does it automatically make the phones start ringing over there at Ashford and people inquiring about getting a mare to Uncle Mo? Is it instant like that, or is it just another feather in his cap type of thing?
Well, Uncle Mo right now, I believe, is on the brink of something special. He has Arabian Knight, but he's also the broodmare sire of the LeCompte winner, Instant Coffee. So, he has always got a stellar book of mares. It's always the right people breeding to him. There's some household name mares that come to him every single year, and he's constantly producing the goods, because to a certain extent you can get all the best opportunities, but you still have to do it. So he's a horse that has got, he started 35,000 and he worked his way up to this, and his yearlings made up to $1.5 million last year. The 2-year-old, obviously, 2-year-olds were topped by Arabian Knight himself, making $2.3 million. And, people come back to that. They come back to us and they want to breed Uncle Mo.
There are 18 stallions standing at Coolmore America, Ashford Stud in Versailles. We could spend a whole show, Michael, a full 3-hour show talking about all 18. We won't have time to do that in this segment, so I want to focus on a couple others. Munnings in particular, the fastest son of Champion Speightstown. He's one of the fastest sons of Gone West. He has another horse that flashed so much brilliance on the racetrack. Tell me a little bit more about Munnings.
Munnings is a fantastic stallion, and he's finally he's at that $100,000 stud fee now, and we're also lucky to have his son Jack Christopher retiring this year, and he's done it the hard way, and he's finally reaping the rewards. He, for example, even in the sales ring last year, off a 40,000 stud fee in 2021, his yearlings averaged 175,000. So he's a horse that people are really excited about, and we're really excited about. He's had a great start to the year as well. He's had a few stakes winners, a couple of really nice maiden special winners, and he also has a daughter on the top 10 Oaks Trail, Money's Gold. She's 2 for 2, and she looks like she'll be there on in the race as well. So we're very lucky about that too.
I'm glad you mentioned Jack Christopher eventually going to be retiring there as well, because sometimes a horse like Munnings can get full quickly because of the success that he's having. And not that Jack Christopher isn't going to fill up, he probably is, but the cool thing is now you have a couple of horses with that same sire line, if you will, that same family tree, and it gives breeders options within that Coolmore stallion family. Is that a good way to look at it?
Definitely. And Munnings has been such a phenomenal stallion for us, and it's a privilege to also have the sire line and that legacy living on at Ashford through Jack Christopher. And you're right, he has been received very, very well. He's settling very well, and he is full, and rightly so. He was one of the standouts last year, and rightly so.
Yeah, it's a loaded stallion roster, and you can't help but talk about the 2 Triple Crown winners standing at Coolmore at Ashford Stud in Versailles, because there's American Pharoah, there's also Justify, and Justify, of course, boasts one thing that American Pharoah could not. He was the only unbeaten Triple Crown winner ever. Pretty cool stuff.
Pretty cool stuff, and what he's done so far as a stallion is also pretty cool. Him never running as a 2-year-old, we expected them to be better older horses, and last year was just phenomenal. He had 29 winners, 6 stakes winners, and we believed everything as a 2-year-old runners was a bonus. And what he did was phenomenal. And we were talking about Money's Gold on the trail for the Oaks, and Justify also has a daughter of his, Justique, who's a half-sister to our other stallion, Motown, by Uncle Mo. So, it's an exciting year for Coolmore. And that first weekend in May is going to be very, very interesting. We also have the colt of our own, Verifying, who won at Oakland a couple of weeks ago. We'll be focusing him on the Derby Trail. And, he's also doing it worldwide. He's doing it in Ireland. He's doing it in England. He's doing it in Japan. Last week he had a daughter of his win on debut in a Group 3 in the Widden Stakes in our colours, and she's going to be aimed at the Golden Slipper. So it's very exciting for him as a stallion, and it's very exciting for us to have him.
Talking with Michael Norris, who handles nomination sales for Coolmore's Ashford Stud in Versailles, Kentucky. You can go to Coolmore.com to check out the stallion standing, not just at Coolmore in America, but all over the world. They do a tremendous job, and the stallions at Ashford, I mentioned 18 of those now, an impressive roster, and you can learn more about every single one, as we won't have time to get to all of them here this morning, but we have told you about Uncle Mo and Munnings and now Justify. Michael, I want to hear more about you. You're relatively new to the Coolmore family there at Ashford, so tell me about your journey. What took you through your racing journey, and how'd you get to this point?
Well, so I was born in Ireland, and I was born on a stud farm in Ireland. My mum has a stud farm and a consignment, and my dad is a vet. So I was born into the industry, you could say. And when I wholeheartedly was committing to the industry, I asked my mum what way I should go about it, and she said, go to Coolmore, because they're the best and it's not going to change. So I worked for Coolmore in Ireland, and then I flew to Australia and worked in our farm down there. And then I went back to Ireland. I completed the national stud course. And pretty much like every Irish guy in Kentucky or Irish girl in Kentucky, I came here for a year, and that was 7 years ago. So I've been here on the farm for 7 years, and I worked in every different aspect of the farm. I worked with the broodmares. I worked with the stallions. I shuttled the stallions to South America. I did yearling preps. I did the breaking. And most recently then I've gone into the office and gone onto the sales team, which is a new challenge for me, but I'm enjoying it. And, I work with great people, and I'm learning from the best people in the industry. So, I'm very lucky.
Quite often I'll interview a trainer here on the show, and they'll talk about learning from the ground up and how that experience that they gained, mucking stalls and, rubbing horses' legs, whatever it is, grooming horses, all of that experience helps them be successful when they launch their own training careers. So all the experience you've gained working in those other aspects around the farm, does that help you now when you start talking to people about these stallions? Definitely.
The more you can do to educate yourself, the better. The more that you can add to your arsenal. Every aspect of the industry you can get into, do it. Learn it all. It'll always help you in the long run. And, now I'm always learning. And, like I said, I'm learning from the best people in the industry, at Coolmore and on the sales team. So I'm very lucky, but absolutely, to answer your question, definitely.
Michael, I'm really excited. This was your maiden start here on the Horse Racing Radio Network on the Equine Forum show. And I have to tell you, man, you put in a American Pharaoh Justify-like performance here this morning, my friend. You did great. I really appreciate the time.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, all the best. Keep it rolling over there. Michael Norris, you can contact him about the stallions over at Coolmore, and he'll take care of you. Again, 18 stallions, part of that stellar roster. Coolmore.com is where you can learn more. All right, when I come back, I'm going to turn my attention to one of the most bizarre finishes in thoroughbred racing history, and I'm going to bring you the man who called it, Larry Collmus. That's next, right after this Legends of the Turf.
In early August of 1919, Samuel D. Riddle's big chestnut 2-year-old Man o' War captured his 6th straight race and, continuing on unbeaten, carried 130 pounds, unheard of, by the way, of current racing practice, to that win in the $10,000 United States Hotel Stakes at Saratoga. The speed and stamina of Big Red had already become legendary, but there were horsemen who had reservations as to his ability to sustain his remarkable speed over a distance of ground. And those self-same doubters felt there would be a real test in his forthcoming scheduled races, the Sanford and the Hopeful, when he would face the very best 2-year-olds in training at the time. The son of Fair Play was a veritable giant, standing better than 16 hands and weighing in at nearly 1,100 pounds. He looked more like a 4-year-old rather than a 2-year-old. Oh, there were challengers to his credentials, all right. Trainer Jimmy Rowe had 2 in a Wild Air and Upset, although Man o' War had whipped Upset in the aforementioned United States Hotel. And then there was Miss Jemima. On Saturday, August 13th, 1919, 7 horses answered the call to post in the Sanford Memorial. One of the meeting's largest crowds, better than 20,000, were on hand to view the attempt of the great Riddle 2-year-old to remain unscathed. John Madden had Captain Alcock in the field, and the most likely contenders were Golden Broom at 2-1 and Upset, who was 7-1. Man of War was the post-time odds-on choice for the betting public at 1-2. Golden Broom was the inside horse with Frankie Ambrose in the irons. Man of War was in post 6 with his regular rider Johnny Loftus in the saddle. Golden Broom acted up considerably both in the post parade and at the start, showing both his nervousness and his greenness. But when the flag dropped at the start, Golden Broom was away winging. By the time the field had gone a bare 16th of a mile, Ambrose had the speedy youngster 2 lengths in front. Upset, Harry Payne Whitney's fine juvenile, who was also away like a rocket, and settled into second place with Donna Khanna third. Man o' War had gotten away poorly, highly unusual for the Riddle standard bearer, almost being left at the post. By the time Loftus had Big Red settled into stride, he was 6th as the field hit the clubhouse turn. By the time the field swung off the turn into the stretch run, Golden Broom was still winging away clearly in front. Man o' War had improved his position to third, cutting down the margin with every stride. It was Golden Brown by a length, Upset by an open 2, and Man o' War third. The rest of the field had given up the chase in mid-stretch, with Man o' War second. Upset had Man o' War by a length and a half at the 16th pole, and Loftus dug in on Big Red, asking the colt for everything he had. 100 feet from the wire, the margin was 3 parts of a length, but Man o' War was running out of real estate. Upset was hanging on tenaciously. As they hit the wire, it was Upset, the number 4 horse of Harry Payne Whitney, still a neck in front of Man o' War, who was gaining slowly. Golden Brown had barely enough left to hang on for third. Captain Alcock finished 4th. The horse appropriately named Upset had indeed lived up to his moniker, and forever from that day on became part of a thoroughbred lore, legend, and mystique as the only horse ever to defeat Man o' War. It all happened in the Sanford at Saratoga, August 13, 1919. A great moment in thoroughbred racing.
Race the TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival on Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Christopher. A son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner, Jack Christopher was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 buyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Christopher stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway. Come early on Saturday for a huge day of bi-coastal racing from Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita, as the first racing tour will include 8 graded stakes and will offer players in all stakes coast-to-coast pick 5. It's a $1 minimum bet with a low 15% takeout. First post time Saturday is at 12 noon, and admission gates open at 10 a.m. Our 10-race card Saturday will be highlighted by 4 graded stakes: the Robert B. Lewis, the Megahertz, the Santa Monica, and the Thunder Road Stakes. Looking ahead to Sunday, there will be a mandatory payout in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot with an estimated total pool of more than $3 million, and on Saturday there is a $1 million single-ticket Pick 6 jackpot guarantee. So if there is a single-ticket winner Saturday, that ticket is worth $1 million. Our infield family fun zone is open, and again, join us early on Saturday with first post time at 12 noon.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Holy Bull's got more left at the quarter pole. 111 and 2 for 3/4. They're turning for home in the Haskell, and Holy Bull has not been let loose yet. He's still on top. Meadowflight running a game race, but Holy Bull is now set down in the final furlong, and Holy Bull is in front by 2. Meadowflight has runners all, but Holy Bull is too good, and Holy Bull wins the Haskell. It's Meadowflight second, and Concern came from off the pace to run third. So there it is. It was Holy Bull under jockey Mike Smith under a hand ride all the way down the stretch. He captures the 27th running of the Haskell. Meadowflight couldn't get to him late.
Well, you may or may not recognize that voice you just heard on the call of the 1994 Haskell at Monmouth Park. It was indeed the man I call the announcer, Larry Collmus, a very young Larry Collmus, and he had the call of the great Holy Bull. Today we remember Holy Bull with the Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream Park. 5 years prior to that, Larry was involved with calling one of the most bizarre finishes we've seen in the history of thoroughbred racing. Going to talk about both of those performances with Larry right now. Larry, good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Mike. And the one thing that I always recalled about that Haskell is that I've had a chance to call, I don't know how many grade ones now, but that was number one. That was the first one I ever called. So and what a great way to start, because he was, I think, both your and my favorite horse.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I mentioned that at the top of the show, that this is a celebratory day for all Holy Bull fans around the world because of the Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream. But just thinking back to that call we just heard in the Haskell, you know, being the first time you had the chance to be on the big stage like that with a big-time horse like Holy Bull, what do you remember about that day and the preparation and maybe even your nerves going into calling that race?
I'm sure I was pretty nervous. It's been a long time to try to remember that whole experience that day. It's been so many years since that happened. But, you know, I was such a fan of the horse coming in, and one of the cool things about Holy Bull, people might not realize, that he was stabled right at Monmouth Park for trainer Jimmy Kroll. He was kind of the local horse, in addition to being probably one of the best horses in the country. And getting to see him, and leading up to the race, would go to the back stretch in the morning, and I remember one time, and you'd be not even in the shed row, you'd be like between barns, and you'd yell, "Hey, Bull!" And he'd come flying out of his stall, looking around like, who the hell is talking to me, and who do you think you are? And he just had that attitude, which we saw all the way up until he was 26 years old when we visited him at Darley, and he was still the boss over there then. So it was he's just such a great personality and an amazing talent on the track. And that day, I don't recall all the details other than the fact that I'm sure I was really nervous being the first grade one I ever called, but he performed like we expected him to.
Yeah, one thing that's cool about Holy Bull, and I happened to pick up on this when I was getting ready for the show. I was going back and kind of reminiscing and watching some of his races. There were so many different announcers that had the chance to be part of his career. You didn't call his maiden win at Monmouth Park, but the caller that was there that day, who was that, Larry?
That's Bob Weems, who was the announcer at Monmouth before me. 94 was my first year at Monmouth, so that was his final year calling there in 1993. He got to call both Holy Bull and De Hare breaking their maidens that year, which was pretty cool at Monmouth Park.
Oh, yeah. I remember that De Hare performance, too, now that you say that. I remember that. And I was thinking about Bob and then you, and then Tom Durkin, of course, had a chance to call Holy Bull many times. Ross Morton down at Gulfstream had a chance to call him. And, that's just kind of neat when you go back and you reflect upon a horse and you see his career evolve and you listen to all the different announcers that had a chance to be involved with that career. It's kind of neat.
Well, I have to say that I'm a little bit biased, but I thought that Tom Durkin's call of Holy Bull's Travers was the best race call I've ever heard.
Yeah.
When he said there is cause for concern, and then Concern made that huge run, and then Holy Bull was able to withstand it, and right at the end of the call he said, "What a hero!" And it just brought tears to my eyes, and it did too when he won the Woodward at Belmont, and I was there that day like standing in the back of the grandstand seats watching him. And as Durkin said, toy with the best horses in training. And it was just such great memories of Holy Bull. And, there's just been no horse other than, being involved with American Pharaohs, Triple Crown and all that. There's been no other horse that's really, really meant that much to me.
So a listener wrote in with a question for Dale and Tim. In the final segment of the show at 10:30 Eastern, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin will join me for a segment we call I Ask, They Answer, and listeners will submit questions for them to debate. And one listener had a great question I'm going to ask them. He said, this is a game of what ifs. Whether you're a horseman, whether you're a horse player, there's always a what if. What if this happened? And it got me thinking. He wants to know what Dale and Tim think are some of the greatest what ifs in thoroughbred racing history. And I was thinking about Holy Bull. And I said, what if Holy Bull did not get hurt in the Don Handicap?
Exactly. I knew you were
Where
going
would Cigar have ended up with that, right? I mean, would we be talking about the Cigar the same way we do, or would that have been a affirmed Alidar type of rivalry?
Exactly. I think that the latter is what would have happened. I mean, it was an unfortunate passing of the torch because of the fact that Holy Bull did get injured in the Don Handicap that day and ended his career. And I remember being in the announcer's booth at Suffolk Downs and throwing a chair in just disgust when it happened, but didn't realize at the time that the horse that ends up winning the Don would be the Great Cigar, who might not have been the Great Cigar had that never happened, and he had to have to face Holy Bull, who had the speed edge on him, so that could have been the rivalry of rivalries, but it wasn't meant to be.
Well, I mentioned your connection to NBC. You call the Triple Crown, you call the Breeders' Cup with the wonderful folks at NBC. You're also working with FanDuel now, so you'll be on television doing the handicapping and analysis with them. Have you had a chance to really dive into this afternoon's edition of the Holy Bull and look at who might kind of carry the torch forward in the 3-year-old division there in Florida?
Yeah, I have, and one of the things that we're watching out for today is the weather, because we hadn't had any rain in South Florida for weeks, but it rained this morning, and right now it's not. But there's some clouds to the west that are making things interesting, and we'll see what develops as the afternoon goes on with that. But as far as the Holy Bull itself, I have been super impressed with Cyclone Mischief. I mean, his race against Allowance Company here, the way he did it, the way he looked, puts him near the top. And I remember, talking to Dale Romans just the other day on the rail at Gulfstream, and he was asking me about 3-year-olds. What have you been seeing? Who do you like? And I said, well, I thought Baffert's horse, Arabian Knight was probably the best one I've seen so far. And I remember he said, yeah, I think I agree with that. He says, but I wouldn't want to change positions with anyone. And I tend to agree that Cyclone Mischief could be that type. And no one really else in the races has blown me away. Rocket Can did break his maiden in the slop at Churchill. So if it does come up wet, I would expect Rocket Can to run a big race here in this race. But to me, it's all about trying to beat Cyclone Mischief, and I think it'll be a tall task.
Yeah, I know Dale certainly thinks that he could be any type. He said that this may be the best or one of the best horses he's ever been around, which Dale's been around some pretty good horses. And, Dale does like to build up his horses. This is nothing new, but there's something different about the way he talks about Cyclone Mischief.
Yeah, and there's something different about the way he looks. He just looked like a very, very good horse in that allowance race, just the way he did it, the way he was striding out in the end. And I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of performance he puts on today, because on the East Coast, I haven't been blown away by anybody yet. Maybe he would be the top one.
Who's the leader in the clubhouse for you right now in the 3-year-old division?
I think Arabian Knight is.
Yeah.
His race. I remember being on the roof at Keeneland, getting ready to call the Breeders' Cup, and just watching the race, and like, oh wow, this is something spectacular. And he did. Baffert likes to bring him in for those big days and bring the superstars. And boy, did he ever with this horse. And then he comes back at Oaklawn and puts on a show again. So I think he's the leader in the clubhouse right now. obviously you've got that whole Churchill Downs, Bob Baffert Derby situation, so we have to see how that plays out. But for now, I think just talent-wise, he's the best 3-year-old.
Visiting with NBC announcer and FanDuel TV analyst Larry Collmus here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Larry, I want to rewind the clock even further. You talked about calling your first Haskell in 1994 with Holy Bull, but 5 years prior to that, and yesterday, by the way, was the anniversary of this bizarre finish. It was February 3rd, 1989, when then 19-year-old apprentice jockey Nate Hubbard was thrown over the neck of his horse, essentially like going over the handlebars on a bike. He held on to the neck of that horse, his feet dangling, held on to cross the finish line. He ended up second, but the steward said, yeah, you know what? You carried the assigned weight all the way through, and your feet never touched the ground. That's a good second in our book. What a remarkable finish. You had the call at Golden Gate that day.
Yeah, it's been such a long, long time, but you never see anything like that. So I still remember it. And, I talked to Nate Hubbard a couple of times, about it over the years. It just happened so fast. I think in the call I just said, Sweetwater Oak loses the rider, and because I didn't know what else to say. I mean, because it was such a quick thing that Sweetwater Oak and the other horse there clipped heels, and all of a sudden there goes Nate, and they never hold on. He's once you're off, but he did. He just grabbed a hold and kept his feet from touching the track. It had one of his feet touched the track, he would have not carried the assigned weight. But it never happened, and he was able to get past the finish line, and it counted. And I had never seen anything like it before or after.
Yeah, just remarkable. And the video of that race, and your call, by the way, is available on a YouTube page, Thoroughbred Racing Review.
It doesn't even sound like me.
No, it doesn't. Well, I didn't think the Haskell necessarily did either. You have developed, over the years, like all of us. And, yeah, I mean, that call was so cool, though, because it caught you by surprise. You could tell you were genuinely surprised and had no idea where to go with it because nobody had ever seen anything like it.
No, I was in a completely shocked, and by the time it happened, the race was over. It was right before the finish line, so
yeah.
It was just an impossible situation to try to describe. But especially since you'd mentioned Nate was 19. I was only 22. I've been around that long, so it's a one of those moments that hopefully we won't see again because you don't want it to happen, but at least it happened the right way and everybody got home safe.
Yeah, we have shared that video, by the way, from Thoroughbred Racing Review on our Twitter feed at HRRN and on our horseracingradio.net website, so you can head over there and check it out. You can hear Larry's call. It is, if you haven't seen it, you have to see it because I don't know, Larry, in going back and watching it, I'm like, how the hell is Nate Hubbard holding on? Because he thought about, I saw the video afterwards when he was making his comments after the race, and he said, I thought about just letting go and dumping off the horse, but then, he had all the horses behind him, and he said that's what kept him holding on.
Yeah, he held on for his own safety.
Yeah.
He just wanted to make sure that he didn't get trampled by anybody else. And then I believe I was reading, and it's been so long that one of the other riders came up alongside of him to make sure the coast was clear for him to come off.
Right.
And then he was able to do so without having to worry about getting hurt. So he got a little help from one of the other jockeys in the race, and just a wild finish, something you would never, ever expect.
I'm going to put you on the spot here. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this question. Well, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you any of these questions, but I'll put you on the spot because I know I can do it with you. You've called so many races since that day. What do you recall as being one of the more bizarre things that you have seen happen during the running of a race?
I was calling another race way back when at Golden Gate when a horse got loose and dumped the jockey out of the starting gate and then started running the wrong way and actually ran through the field as they came down the stretch, going the opposite direction. And everybody was clear and out of the way. I remember the steward's telling me we decided it didn't affect the outcome of the race and we're going to make it official. I'm like, what? I said, he just ran through the whole field and jocks were taken up all over the place. But, what was I to determine at the time? But, that was one of those wild ones. I mean, there's been so many over the years, calling races in the fog, like when we had Justify win the Preakness, and so many other times where you're just, you can't even see the race and you're calling it or pretending to call it. But I'm trying to think of if there were any others off the top of my head. I mean, I've called so many races, tens of thousands of races, and things happen, and you kind of forget about them. But I'm sure if someone jogs my memory on that, I would say, oh yeah, I remember that now. So.
Yeah, it was a little bizarre calling horses going the opposite direction in Barbados, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was fun though. It was something different. I really enjoyed that, and it was a 6.5 furlong race I remember calling in Barbados, and watching those horses come down this long stretch, and as soon as the race is over, they have to almost come to a dead stop because they don't want to run into a building.
Yeah, it's definitely unique when you make the trip down to Garrison, Savannah. There's no doubt about it. Real quick before I let you go, back to Nate Hubbard in that race at Golden Gate for just a minute. As you watch the replay, and folks, you can see this again on our Twitter feed and on our website. When you watch the replay, you see the jockey that was in front that won the race. He's looking back as he comes under the wire, looking back at Nate Hubbard, and I wonder if he heard something behind him or if he heard your call when you said Nate Hubbard had come off the horse. I wonder if he had heard that, and that's what got his attention to look back.
I don't think that a lot of times, it depends. Golden Gate, actually, back then they had some pretty big speakers in the infield, so yeah, he might have heard it, but a lot of times the track, when you're on the track, you're not able to hear the announcer because of the direction of the speakers. But I think that there's probably a whole lot of yelling going on behind him that he probably heard more than my call. And, it's just one of those things where I'm sure he heard something, wanted to know what it was, and then he found out quick what it was.
Well, it's been fun to remember that day, fun to remember the Great Holy Bull. Go ahead and plug the coverage today on FanDuel TV. What's coming up?
Oh yeah, we're gonna have a big day today. Of course, we'll have the entire card at Gulfstream Park. I'll be on later in the afternoon with Todd Schrupp. We've got Scott Hazelton here, Caton Bradar, Andy B. and Cone, Matt Bernier. We got the full team in place for today's show. So looking forward to that, and obviously all the other races around the country will be showing as well. But definitely going to be a fantastic afternoon on FanDuel TV, and looking forward to the Holy Bull and all the other stakes at Gulfstream today.
Yeah, all-star lineup, all-star card at Gulfstream in South Florida. Larry Collmus, ladies and gentlemen. Larry, appreciate the conversation. Enjoy the races today, and good luck down there with the coverage. And if you do go to the windows, good luck there too.
All right. Thanks, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bud. Yeah, that race, you have to go back and watch it. Head over to @HRRN, our Twitter page. Head over to horseracingradio.net and check it out. It's bizarre. If you haven't seen this, it is totally bizarre. And what an effort by Nate Hubbard, again, 19-year-old apprentice at that time, to hold on for his safety, for the safety of the horses and the riders behind him. It's incredible. And, yes, a legitimate second-place finish because he carried the weight all the way through, and his feet never – you can go back and slow it down. The feet never do touch the ground. It's quite a sight. And Larry, with the call of that race, a very young Larry Collmus, as you heard him say, just 22 years old back in 1989. All right, coming up, this week's edition of Calling All 3-Year-Olds, presented by Spendthrift, and then I will get you ready for hour number 2, which begins with the Hall of Famer, John Velazquez. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action?
Did the caller know your social security number or other personal information and tell you that your social security number had been used in connection with the crime? Did you feel worried that your social security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Hi, this is jockey Brian Hernandez. For me, there's no bigger thrill than crossing the finish line in front, and nobody captures the excitement of our sport like Horse Racing Radio Network. Each week, HRRN brings you exclusive talk shows, podcasts, and in-depth conversations with the biggest names in racing, jockeys, trainers, owners, and more. Plus, HRRN is committed to helping disabled riders through their support of the PDJF. So climb aboard a winner today by visiting horseracingradio.net.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
They're all in line. And they're off.
Spendthrift Farm presents Calling All 3-Year-Olds with Bobby Neuman.
The Lone Points qualifier on the road to the Kentucky Derby last weekend was the Grade 3 Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn. Bob Baffert's Arabian Knight dazzled racing fans when he crushed a maiden field on the undercard of Breeders' Cup Saturday at Keeneland, and he was sent off the heavy favorite at 2-5. It was his first attempt against winners, in stakes company, around 2 turns, and on a sloppy track. But he passed all the tests with ease, taking the lead, setting an honest pace, and eventually drawing away to a 5.5-length score. Arabian Knight isn't currently eligible to earn Derby points, so he missed out on the 20 points he would have gotten. He reportedly came out of the race well and could return in the Rebel at Oaklawn on February 25th or the San Felipe at Santa Anita on March 4th. There were supposed to be 3 Kentucky Derby points qualifiers this weekend, then there were 2, then there was only 1. The Grade 3 Holy Bull goes as the finale on today's card at Gulfstream, and Cyclone Mischief is the morning line favorite off his impressive allowance win last time out. He faces the undefeated Legacy Isle, who's 3 for 3 and the lone stakes winner in the field. Lord Miles and Rocket Can are improving sorts and could have something to say as well. Santa Anita hosts the Grade 3 Robert B. Lewis today. 16 horses were nominated, of which 14 are trained by Bob Baffert. Only 4 were entered into the race: Arabian Lion, Newgate, Worcester, and Hard to Figure. And since they're all Baffert trainees, none of them will be able to earn Kentucky Derby points. The Grade 3 Withers was supposed to be the feature at Aqueduct today, but the entire card was canceled both yesterday and today in New York due to extreme cold. The Withers will instead go next Saturday, along with fellow Derby stepping stones the Sam F. Davis at Tampa and the El Camino Real Derby at Golden Gate. I'll be back with this week's top 5 list right after this word from Spendthrift.
Spendthrift Farm introduces new for 2023 Classic winner Mo Donegal. A leading 2-year-old of his class, Mo Donegal won the Grade 2 Remsen Stakes to close out his juvenile campaign before going on to win the Grade 2 Wood Memorial and Grade 1 Belmont Stakes as a 3-year-old, joining Nyquist as classic winners by Uncle Mo.
And it will be Mo Donegal to win the Test of the Champion, the Belmont Stakes.
Mo Donegal became the first horse this century to capture New York's prestigious Remsen at 2 and Wood Memorial at 3. Mo Donegal, the newest classic winner, standing at Spendthrift.
This week's top 5 list of Derby contenders looks like this. Number 5, Instant Coffee, looked great winning his last couple starts with an exciting closing kick. 4, Giant Mischief, the son of Into Mischief, should improve as the distances increase. He's pointing for the Rebel at Oaklawn on February 25th. 3, Cave Rock, looked nervous and uncomfortable prior to the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and finished second when clearly not his best. He's capable of better. Number 2, Forte, the Breeders' Cup champ, is back in training. His next start likely the Fountain of Youth at Gulfstream on March 4th. And number 1, Arabian Knight, undefeated Baffert trainee, isn't eligible for Derby points yet, but certainly one of the ones off his impressive first 2 starts. That's your Calling All 3-Year-Old segment presented by Spendthrift, the Breeders' Farm.
And now just 91 days, 8 hours, 45 minutes, and 7 seconds away from the Run for the Roses, edging ever closer to that date on Saturday, May 6th, and all those horses that Bobby talked about hoping to find their way to Louisville for the big dance. All right, busy second hour of the show. It kicks off with Hall of Famer John Velazquez, includes Unsung Heroes, and Junior Alvarado coming up at 9:40. I'm back with Hour 2 right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. And, of course, your Visit Barbados racing update. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Following a weekend where older horses found themselves in the spotlight, the focus shifts back to the 3-year-olds this weekend, with Derby hopefuls taking center stage in the Holy Bull and Robert B. Lewis Stakes, with 10 3-year-old fillies set to square off in the Grade 3 Forward Gal at Gulfstream. The Dale Romans trained Cyclone Mischief looks to state his case as a legitimate Kentucky Derby contender in the Holy Bull, while Bob Baffert will be guaranteed a 5th consecutive win in the Robert B. Lewis as he saddles all 4 horses entered in this year's renewal. High winds and frigid temperatures in the Northeast have forced the cancellation of today's racing at Aqueduct. The Grade 3 Withers and $100,000 Ruthless Stakes have both been rescheduled. The Ruthless for 3-year-old fillies will now be contested on tomorrow's card, while the 3-year-old boys will have to wait one more week for the Withers, now set for next Saturday. And that's your Visit Barbados racing update, brought to you by Barbados Tourism. Learn more at visitbarbados.org.
If you've been waiting to discover that sweet spot where peace of mind meets the time of your life, then it sounds like you've been waiting on Barbados. You've been waiting to experience a meal that makes you book a flight to have it again. You've been waiting for adventure in the sun, from the majesty of horse racing and polo to the thrill of surfing our playful waves. From the moment you set foot on the island, you'll realize Barbados is exactly what you've been waiting for. Visit jetblue.com/Barbados for special vacation packages.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Welcome back. Hour 2 of 3 rolling on. A busy morning as always. Plenty of content still to come, and you heard a lot of content in the first hour of the show. If you missed any portion of the program so far, or you just want to go back and re-listen to it, head back to our website after we finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern. A podcast will be posted for you to listen to at your leisure. You can do that at horseracingradio.net. You can also do that on any major podcast platform simply by searching Horse Racing Radio Network. Poll question today. I'll give you a quick update here in a few minutes, but I threw out the poll question. Which race on the docket later today is most likely to produce the Kentucky Derby winner, if indeed it is going to happen? The Holy Bull, the Robert B. Lewis, the Swale, or the Kitten's Joy? All 4 of those races for the 3-year-olds. Which race is more likely to produce the Kentucky Derby winner? Go to @HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook to cast your vote. If you don't do social media, you can email the show, Mike@horseracingradio.net.
Well, hour two begins, as I promised you, with the Hall of Famer John Velazquez, who last Saturday did something he has done nearly 6,500 times in his Hall of Fame career. He returned to the winner's circle to have his picture taken after winning another race. It just seems routine for him now, and he is with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Johnny, really appreciate it, my friend. Thanks for the visit.
Michael, thank you for having me.
Yeah, congrats on that big win in the Southwest. I know there have been bigger wins in your career, but this was an impressive, visually impressive win by Arabian Knight last weekend.
Yeah, he was, man, and he was so impressive, just like the first time he ran at Keeneland, and then obviously he's been training right after that and took basically a couple of months off and come back and do us as impressive like as he did the other day. So very nice to have and an exciting horse to look forward to.
Breaks his maiden by more than 7 lengths, wins by nearly 6 lengths in the Southwest against what looked to be a quality field, made them look ordinary. Which race was more impressive to you, Johnny?
I definitely think the race of the other day was very impressive. More so than the maiden, just because going 2 turns, and with horses who are running, I have won already. When you step up like that and win as easy as you do, that's definitely very impressive.
Walk me through the race. What was the trip like for you?
Well, to tell you the truth, I was thinking that I was going to be laying second because there was a horse right next to me. They come for sprinting, and he went like 21, 45, 1 3/4, and he did tell me that he was going to send the horse. And I said, listen, you're going to have to be fast enough to be in front of me, but if you're not there, I'm sure I'm going to take you out of there. And sure enough, my horse broke really good, and the other kid was trying to send the horse, and my horse ended up being a little faster than him, and we'll go to the first turn. I'll make sure that I took him out of there, so that way we don't get head and head going to the backstretch. But once he got to the first turn, he relaxed pretty good. Like the first quarter was a little faster than I wanted it to be. But once we got to the backstretch, man, he settled really nice. And as soon as the horses started, coming close to him, he got aggressive. Down the stretch, I went away, and I thought he was going to open up, which he did. But when he saw the tire tracks from the gate, he started slowing down and kind of drifting out. And before they pulled in, I didn't want to spank him. I didn't want to do anything, but then I had to do it to get his attention. I got his attention, and when he passed the tire tracks going to the 16 pole, he kind of took off again. So a great feeling to when you ask the horses to do something and they respond, and it really did. And Gallop out was very good.
Yeah, this is only his second career start, so he's still learning. How much, Johnny, do you have to be a teacher when you're aboard these young horses, even in these big races?
No, absolutely. This is what you do, and this is what the races do for them as well. Try to teach them the best you can, and hopefully they get it. And he is a really smart horse, though. So all you have to do is to make sure that you get their attention, and they do. Some of them need a little more than that, but this one he seems to get it right away.
Yeah, the race was 1 mile and a 16th. Of course, on the first Saturday in May, he'll have to handle 1 mile and a quarter if he gets to that point. Does he give you the sense that the extra distance won't be an issue?
Yeah, I don't think so. Absolutely not. The way he gallops out and everything, he seems to handle the 2 turns and the distance, and and Bob, obviously he'll get them ready for that.
Well, he's trained by Bob Baffert, and I think because of that, people immediately started saying, oh my goodness, we're looking at the next American Pharaoh after he crossed the finish line and won so impressively. What do you think? The next American Pharaoh, or do we need to pump the brakes a little bit here?
Yeah, well, that's hard to compare one to the other one when these horses only run 2 times. So, obviously that's the dream to get another American Pharaoh. Obviously the way he was, the American Pharaoh was really impressive every time he ran. And it's hard to compare those kind of horses, but definitely these horses are very talented, and we wish to be some sort of like American Pharaoh, basically. It's a lot of hope. Let's put it that way. Yeah, definitely.
He's the son of champion Uncle Mo, who, of course, you know very well. You rode Uncle Mo. And I would never ask you to compare those two because I don't think that's fair either. But are there any similarities with a young Uncle Mo and a young Arabian Knight that you're feeling underneath you?
This is really funny because I said when he broke his maiden, And I came back and it reminded me of Uncle Mo, you know, and I was so tired and like the day after, and I was like, man, you see the horse? And it reminded me so much of Uncle Mo, you know, and the way he ran and everything like that. So he did remind me of him when he, you know, broke his maiden. I mean, he definitely has the quality and the mind that Uncle Mo had. So it's just about to, you know, stay healthy and hopefully we'll continue going forward and improving, you know.
Visiting with Hall of Fame jockey John Velazquez here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Johnny, you hop aboard another talented 3-year-old for Bob Baffert in the Robert B. Lewis Stakes this afternoon. That race also at 1 1/16 at Santa Anita. That's number 1, Arabian Lion. Tell me a little bit about him. You got to get a sense of what he was all about last time out when you were aboard him in the Los Al Futurity.
Yeah, I think he's coming to this race much better, though. He worked here the other day, and we went a little bit too fast. I was not on him. I wasn't on the horse. But he's coming to the race better for this one, and I think the way Bob thinks that he's training for this race, he'll show up much better than last time when he ran in Los Alamitos. So that's what we're hoping for.
What went wrong in that race at Los Al?
Well, I think he lost his shoe, and then he kind of popped a little quarter crack or something like that. So he definitely didn't show up, you know. So when he came back, they found out he lost his shoe and had a little foot problem. So he seems like to, you know, got over it, and he's training very well for this race.
Yeah, Bob makes a little tweak with the equipment change. He's going to add blinkers for the race later today. Did you notice anything in that race where maybe you went back to Bob and said, hey, you know, you might want to think about this. His attention wasn't quite where I wanted it to be?
Well, you know, what I said to him, so like he broke well and got at a really good position going to the first turn. But when I got to the back stretch, he lost interest right away, though, you know. And I couldn't tell why, though, you know. And by the time we got to the half of my pole, I was out of horse. I was like, I mean, it was very unusual for him, you know, to not be interested and to get there. And obviously, after the race, I found out, you know, the next day I talked to Bob, and he told me, you know, the horse has the biggest skew, so I think we'll get it straight, and he'll show up. So very confident that Bob found out what was wrong with him, and training to this race, like I said, he seems like he's training really well.
Yeah, you know, one of his main competitors in that race is expected to be Newgate, who you know very well. He'll be ridden by Frankie Dettori in the race this afternoon, but you rode him for his first 4 career starts. Does that give you a little bit of an advantage, knowing what that horse is all about to your outside?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but I think I'll be in front of that horse anyway. So it all depends how we manage to go to the thing. But yeah, he's actually a decent horse, and I was told Bob that, you know, he's definitely a decent horse. It's just he doesn't give you everything that you think he's going to give to you. So, I mean, maybe he's learning now, and hopefully I'm in the right horse this time.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. How do you go about differentiating these 3-year-olds now, Johnny? You're trying to make a call for who you're going to ride on the first Saturday in May. I know it's a process. We've talked about it before, but like right now, sitting here in early February, what are you trying to feel underneath you to let you know you're picking the right horse?
Well, like you say, it's a process, obviously, and then the closer we get to the Kentucky Derby and see how they last all the way to the last prep going to the Kentucky Derby and see how they handle all those preps. So, you know, this is the only thing is really hard on the 3-year-olds. You know, they could be really good now, and then by the time, you know, get closer to the Kentucky Derby, they probably won't be there, though. So that's the first thing, though, to see who lasts all the way, you know, to the last prep or the Kentucky Derby. And then if they do, how they handle it, those prep going into the Derby, and see how much they're learning and how stronger they got. Though, you know, some of them go the opposite, and some of them, you know, go the right way. You know, you try to see how they're picking, if you're picking at the right time going to the Derby, and those are things, signs that you look and to see how they manage to get all these races. Though, you know, and it's hard. It's hard for a lot of them, though, you know, because it's a lot of competition. The competition gets tougher, and that's when you know who's gonna last and who's gonna show up to the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, who's a contender and who's a pretender, certainly.
Yeah.
So Arabian Lion and the Robert B. Lewis, and then you have 3 other stakes races, graded stakes that you're going to ride: the Megahertz, the Santa Monica, and the Thunder Road Stakes. So let's just take them one by one. Baystorm and the Megahertz. What can you tell me there?
Well, not much until I see how they run. waiting for the instructions, basically, and we'll see what they're telling me and what they like to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's a horse you're somewhat familiar with. You won on Baystorm back in September of 2021 at Belmont Park. That was a $100,000 stakes, so you have that experience. I'm sure that it's like riding a bike, right? You start getting a leg up, get the instructions from Jonathan Thomas, and you just take it away.
Yeah. So I'll wait to see what he tells me a little bit here, but it's like you said, I do my homework. I see what the speed is going and what the other ones are trying to do, and then I'll let once the break opens, I know where I'm going to land.
Yeah, the plan A, plan B, plan C. We've talked about that many times, my friend, and you're the best in the business at making those adjustments. How about the Santa Monica Stakes? Anacapa for Carla Gaines. What do you know there?
Well, I don't know very much about this one.
Yeah.
Doing the homework, trying to see where we're going to land and see what she tells me, though. She's been very good. Carla's been very good on letting me do the things that I like to do, and see what the homework is telling me and see when the breaks opens, and then we go from there. Again, it's about see how the race is going to develop, and I let it be once that gate opens.
Yeah, you're in the same situation with the final stakes race, the Thunder Road, with There Goes Harvard for Michael McCarthy. This would be a horse that you're not familiar with, so I'm sure you'll take his advice before the race and go from there. You mentioned your preparation, Johnny. Just walk me through what you will do outside of listening to the trainer. What other things are you going to do leading up to these races to make sure you're ready and you know the competition?
Well, I read the form, I see the races and all the things that the competition is doing, though. Not just my horse, but actually look at the competition, how they're doing it, and see the trainers and everything. And sometimes you look at the trainers and the jockeys because some of them had different styles and giving instructions, and some of the jockeys had different styles of riding. So you try to anticipate what they're going to do first and see how they're going to develop the race. And then you go from there, really. So once you do that, and you know the jockeys who are riding the horses, also the trainers, and how the horses are doing, and how they've been ridden before, and you try to anticipate all of that. It's about, trying to anticipate everything, what they're trying to do, and then what can I do to change their mind. And I think that's the process of confusing them as well.
Yeah, what can I do to change their mind? That's really interesting. Before I let you go, Johnny, I know you've got a bunch of things to get to, but I was talking earlier in the show that this is the 34-year anniversary. It was February 3rd, 1989, that jockey Nate Hubbard was riding a horse called Sweetwater Oak at Golden Gate Fields, and the horse was coming down to the line, ended up finishing second. Nate was flung over the horse's shoulders when the horse took a weird move and held on to the horse's neck. His feet never touched the ground. Somehow, miraculously, he finished second. Nobody was hurt. The steward said, yes, you are awarded second place money because your horse carried the allotted weight for the entire race and your feet never touched the ground. One of the most bizarre and incredible finishes we've ever seen. What if I were to put you on the spot right now and say, what's one of the craziest things that you've ever seen happen during the running of a race that you've been in or sat in the jocks room and watched? What would compare to that? Anything?
Well, there's many cases that you see the jockey hanging off the horses and get back onto the horse and finishing the race, though. So like that one hanging out in the neck, passing the wire. I haven't seen something like that. So that's definitely one of the things that only pictures I've seen, though, and it's bizarre things that happens. But yeah, I've seen plenty of those that you almost off the horse, and actually it happened to me too, kind of hanging off the horse and one leg on top of the horse, and all of a sudden you get back on top of the horse, or riding with no reins, basically. All the things that happens in the races, they can happen, really. But yeah, I think that one, the one that you just playing there, I think is probably one of the most unusual ones, though, that you actually finish and hanging off the neck of the horse.
Could you do it?
I guess if you put up to it, I think you can.
If you had to.
If you have to, you actually hold on for your life. You know what I mean? So sometimes you do things that trying to not get hurt or anything like that. So I hope that I never have to do it. But if it's something happen like that, and I'm trying to hold on for my life, definitely yes.
Yeah, you do what you have to do. Johnny V, John Velazquez, here with me on HRN. Johnny, you're the best. Really appreciate the conversation. Thanks for taking the time, and good luck today, but more importantly, safe trip every time you get a leg up.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Hall of Famer John Velazquez here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Yeah, you do what you got to do, right? I mean, I'm sure Nate Hubbard wasn't thinking, can I do this? I'm sure that wasn't, like the way he drew it up on the chalkboard, if you will. But, yeah, pretty cool stuff from Johnny. I appreciate that conversation. He's going to have his pick of some very talented runners as he makes his way down the road to the first Saturday in May. When I come back, a edition of Unsung Heroes. They're all special, but this is one you absolutely won't want to miss. I'm going to tell you the story of a 30-year-old retired thoroughbred and the unbelievable bond that horse has developed with a human connection. It's fantastic. Stay with me. It's the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There's something for everyone this February at Laurel Park. Come watch live horse racing every Friday through Sunday and join us on Saturday, February 18th for the Winter Spectacular Stakes, featuring 6 stakes races and $900,000 in purses, including the Grade 3 General George and the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie Stakes. Plus, don't miss out on special President's Day holiday racing on Monday, February 20th. Visit laurelpark.com for more info. That's laurelpark.com for more.
Racing fans, Santa Anita's Classic Meet is underway. Come early on Saturday for a huge day of bicoastal racing from Gulfstream Park and Santa Anita, as the first racing tour will include 8 graded stakes and will offer players in all stakes coast-to-coast pick 5. It's a $1 minimum bet with a low 15% takeout. First post time Saturday is at 12 noon, and admission gates open at 10 a.m. Our 10-race card Saturday will be highlighted by 4 graded stakes: the Robert B. Lewis, the Megahertz, the Santa Monica, and the Thunder Road Stakes. Looking ahead to Sunday, there will be a mandatory payout in the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6 jackpot with an estimated total pool of more than $3 million. And on Saturday, there is a $1 million single-ticket Pick 6 jackpot guarantee. So if there is a single-ticket winner Saturday, that ticket is worth $1 million. Our infield family fun zone is open, and again, join us early on Saturday with first post time at 12 noon.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Heroes in the world of sports are not uncommon, oftentimes thrusting themselves into the limelight through unimaginable feats.
Back behind the ball, Woods puts it.
And in! He has done it! Tiger is back! Tiger is back on top! Tiger Woods, the 2019 Masters champion.
And breathtaking performances.
Here's how you count to 8. 3, 2, 1. And for the 8th time, college basketball's national championship trophy is coming home to Kentucky.
But behind every great hero, there are others. Individuals who play a crucial role in the achievements of those we read about in the headlines. The ultimate team players, content to stand behind the curtain, embracing their place as a vital part of a sport's success. In horse racing, these are the unsung heroes.
So many unsung heroes in the sport of thoroughbred racing. In this segment here this morning, we'll shine the spotlight on somebody who is certainly no exception, and that is Donna Ralph, who has developed quite a bond with a 30-year-old thoroughbred based in Canada. The horse's name, Major Z, and they have become quite a team together, and Donna is kind enough to spend a little time with me here this morning. And Donna, congratulations on being this week's Unsung Hero. This story is absolutely remarkable. I can't wait to hear it. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
The folks at Woodbine were kind enough to put us in touch with each other because they put together the story in print. And after I read it, I said, oh, my goodness, I have to get a hold of Donna. She is the perfect unsung hero because, this segment kind of shines the spotlight on people that do wonderful things for our thoroughbreds behind the scenes, and you don't often hear about it. So let's start with the beginning of the story. It actually begins with the 2006 Kentucky Derby and a horse that most people are pretty familiar with, a horse named Barbaro. Take me back to the beginning.
Well, the year that Barbaro won the Kentucky Derby was the first year that I hadn't had a litter of miniature Schnauzer puppies in quite a while. There's always a puppy in each litter that needs more attention, so I focus on the puppy a little bit more than the other puppies. They all get good care, but one special. The year that Barbaro won, and then of course broke down in the Preakness, I didn't have a litter, so he became my focus. I checked on him every morning to see how he was doing, and of course, when he finally succumbed to his injuries, broke my heart. So a friend of mine had asked me to check in with a thoroughbred racing retirement organization, which turned out to be Long Run. I sent them an email, and Vicki Pappas, the founder and co-chair, got back to me right away with a lovely little email and said that she would be more than happy to send some information out on several horses that I might consider sponsoring. We were in Florida at the time, and when we got back, there was an envelope, and there was only one horse profile in it, and it was Major Z. And I think Vicki chose him because he was such a war horse, such a strong personality, fought to the bitter end, and she kind of, I think, saw the connection between Barbaro's Spirit and Major Z. So he became the focus of my attention and still is. He's wonderful.
Yeah, Long Run, that organization based in Canada that is a retirement center, if you will. They find great homes for horses, and they take care of more than 50 retired thoroughbreds at Long Run. It was established in 1999. They do a wonderful job. But thank goodness you didn't have a litter of miniature Schnauzers that year when Barbaro came along, because this relationship with Major Z, Donna, would have never happened.
That's correct. Yes, he certainly has been the focus for quite a number of years, and I give full credit to his foster mom, Gail Sims. She has done an absolutely awesome job with him through some kind of rough times as he aged, and she caters to him. He's just an apple of our eye anyway. We share a real love for him.
What is your role as the sponsor of Major Z?
Well, I actually I get to enjoy his company quite often. Basically, I'm giving to Long Run every month in his care. We send special treats to him occasionally. Gail and I have become great friends over the years, and I just get to love on him.
What do you remember about the first time you got the chance to meet him?
Well, he wasn't exactly the friendliest guy, having just been off the track for a short while. And we went up at Girls' Weekend on the way up there. The farm was on the way, so I contacted Gail and asked if we could come by. She very graciously let 3 strangers onto her property, and he was more interested in hanging with his buddy Celtic Ruler than really, meeting me. I got to, speak to him and feed him some carrots and whatever, but, it wasn't the best meeting, but we've become closer over the years.
What's that like now? I mentioned he is now 30 years old, and he must have mellowed out some, I would imagine, from his racing days. So what's the relationship like now when you get to go spend time with him?
Well, he does know me, but I'm not sure whether it's, the just the fact that it's me or the fact that I bring treats. He's happy with his herd of 2 other guys, 2 other long run horses, and So yes, he does come when basically when Gail whistles for him, but he will come up and he knows that I have treats. And if I don't hand them over immediately, he starts this licking business, like my hand, my arm, whatever, until he gets his special treats. And he's quite happy to stand there and let me scratch him and hug him and kiss him, whatever. So he is much friendlier now than he was in the initial introduction.
Major Z ended up winning 20 races from 79 starts in his career. He won more than $360,000, and I'm sure that Major Z is as appreciative for you, Donna, as you are for him. It's a wonderful relationship, and it just, again, this is a perfect story for this Unsung Heroes segment. It's exactly why I wanted to reach out to you, because you, as his sponsor, as you said, write the check the long run. You make sure that he has everything he needs, and then you get to go see him and bring him his treats. You've actually had to change some of the treats you've been bringing to him. You started taking carrots, but you can't do that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. He has very few teeth left at this age. So we researched and found some the puffy peppermints that melt in your mouth. I get them in the U.S., and my daughter ships them to me in Canada. So he has his peppermints. And then we have a girl in the local barn that makes these fabulous cookies decorated to the nth degree that are tiny and softer for him, so he gets those as well.
Wow, just tremendous. I mean, as I said, he's probably just as thankful for you as you are for him. His sire is Dejure, and that brought you to Shadwell Farm in Kentucky. Tell me about that side of the story.
Oh, my goodness. That was an absolute amazing experience. They don't have public tours, but I did reach out to them through email, and I was astonished that the stallion manager got in contact with us and said, sure, come by when you're in the area. So we did. They brought Dejure out. They also brought out Jazzle and Invasor as if we were there inspecting mares. And here we were, two people from Canada, didn't know very much about horses in particular, but I certainly had done some research to find out about his sire and dam. So it was quite an experience, and I have to say, they told me that they follow their horses and hope that they catch everybody before they wind up in an unpleasant place for retired racehorses.
Yeah. And by the way, the full story is on the Woodbine website. You can go to woodbine.com and check out the newsroom section. You can read this entire story, but Donna is doing a wonderful job walking through it. Chris Lamone is the one who wrote the story. At the end of the article, you said that you are totally smitten with the old guy. And you said whenever you look into his eyes, you see those traces of how he must have looked when he raced. What does that mean? Explain that.
Well, actually, when I was up the last time, which was just a week ago, he took off running, and he has to be in the lead. He still has that fight, that spirit to be number one in that particular herd. And he didn't go very fast, and he didn't go very far, but he took off, and the other two followed him. And I thought, wow, I wonder what he remembers of his days on the track. And yeah, it's heartwarming to watch him be so full of spunk and vitality at this age.
Is Major Z the only horse that you sponsor, Donna?
Yes, he is the only one, but I do own two ponies in our local barn. So he's not the only horse in my life, but he's quite important in my life.
Would you do it again? Would you sponsor another thoroughbred?
I absolutely would. Yes, I will. And I will continue on because I know he's not going to be around forever, unfortunately. But yes, and one of his herd mates, who's been his best buddy since he came off the track, Celtic Ruler, I would probably carry on and sponsor Celtic.
Wow, it's such a great story, and the team at Long Run do wonderful work, and without the support of people like you, Donna, they aren't able to do that work and take care of our equine athletes. So on behalf of the entire thoroughbred industry around the world, thank you very much for what you do.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure to do it, and I hope to do it for a long time yet.
Well, a true unsung hero, Donna Ralph, here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Donna, I really appreciate the visit. Thank you for telling the story, and and keep doing what you're doing because it is making a difference.
Thank you so much.
All right, Donna Ralph here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. And, of course, that Unsung Heroes segment brought to you every single week by our friends at Woodbine Entertainment. I will be back right after this word from Woodbine.
Attention horsemen, make plans now to race at Woodbine in 2023. The thoroughbred meet begins in April, and Woodbine will distribute more than $64 million in purses. Plus, you'll enjoy world-class racing and training facilities with top turf racing in North America over the prestigious E.P. Taylor Turf Course. Woodbine's convenient proximity to Kentucky and New York, along with a 9-month racing season, make it the perfect place to compete this year. Shipping incentives may be available, so don't delay. Contact Director of Racing Tim Lawson today and visit woodbine.com for more information.
If you know someone you feel should be recognized as an unsung hero in the thoroughbred business, simply send their story to me, Mike at horseracingradio.net, and I will do my best to recognize them in the weeks and months ahead on these Unsung Hero segments. Coming up next, you're going to hear from jockey Junior Alvarado as he looks back on his big win in last Saturday's Pegasus World Cup, and he looks ahead to this afternoon's Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream Park. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival on Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
I'm here with Joe Brown Nicholson of Nicholson Insurance Agency. Joe, how do you value a horse for insurance?
Well, Mike, it's easy to value a horse when purchased out of a public auction. The insured value would simply be the auction price. But insuring homebreds can be a little more involved.
How so?
Well, factors such as a stud fee, conformation, pedigree, sales and race records of siblings, even popularity of the stallion all come into play.
How closely do you work with owners in determining a horse's value?
Well, the owner has a pretty good idea of the horse's value, so generally it's just a matter of agreeing to the request and having the policy issued.
For all your equine and general insurance needs, including farm owners, liability, homeowners, auto, and more, contact Joe Brown Nicholson at nicholsoninsurance.com or call 859-224-7080. That's 859-224-7080. Nicholson Insurance Agency.
There's plenty of thrills at Gulfstream Park during the championship meet with live racing Wednesday through Sunday. Don't miss the Triple Crown prep races, including the Fountain of Youth on March 4th and Florida Derby on April 1st. Enjoy the races outdoors from Carousel Club or feast in 10 Palms, offering a premium view of the races. For stake schedules, reservations, and tickets, visit GulfstreamPark.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN. Presented by TwinSpires.
Cyberknife better pick up his ball game. He's angling to the clear for a run. Get her number swings widest of all for an upset possibility as Art Collector has run to the front. Less than a quarter of a mile to come. It's Art Collector in front. Defunded counter punches from the inside second. Back to third, it's Stiletto Boy. Nothing much running home from the back. Last Samurai for a slice, but Art Collector is kicked clear. Art Collector in the colors of Bruce Lunford. They're going to win the Pegasus World Cup going away. Art Collector and Junior Alvarado win by 4 in the end. Defunded was second. Stiletto Boy ran third. Close for fourth between Last Samurai and Proxy. The final running time, 1:49 and 44 100
Welcome back to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you as always on this Saturday morning. Rolling on, busy show, getting ready to wind down hour number 2. Hour 3 begins with the TwinSpires triple play. Vance Hanson going to be with me at 10 o'clock Eastern. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I once again welcome Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin for the always popular I Ask They Answer segment. They'll talk about so many of the top moments coming up, or top stories coming up in thoroughbred racing over the course of this weekend and the past week. Jockey Junior Alvarado was aboard Art Collector in the race you just heard, the Pegasus World Cup. That was last Saturday. Pete Aiello had the call for you there. Junior is going to be back aboard another Bill Mott trainee in today's Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream, and he is going to be joining me here momentarily. Lee, go ahead and give him another call. He is awaiting your phone call from our studio. So we'll get connected with Junior, who is down in Florida, and we'll get a chance to visit with him and look back on that big win last week. It was somewhat unexpected, I think, at least by many people in the sport. And Art Collector, what's he earned now? Over $4 million in his career? That might be the quietest, most underrated $4 million a horse has ever earned in racing history. It seems like Art Collector is often the forgotten horse in this division. He won't be now, having shown up winning the Pegasus World Cup. But I think because of the fact that a couple of his big victories came at Charlestown in West Virginia in the Charlestown Classic, people don't look at Art Collector the way that they look at some of the other top horses in that older horse division. They're going to now. They're going to have to take a look at Art Collector because he put in a tremendous effort under Junior Alvarado last weekend, and Junior is with me now here on HRN. Junior, good morning, my friend.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for being with me, and congratulations on that performance by Art Collector. Huge win, not only for him, but for you, too.
Yeah, definitely was an unbelievable win. Horse coming into the race was training great, but, was coming for a little layoff, but he, Mr. Mo, Hall of Famer, he knew what to do to have him ready to put out this good race last Saturday.
Take me through the race. We just heard Pete Aiello with the call of the race, but from your perspective, sitting in the saddle, walk me through it.
I just think probably for me, the only thing that I was making sure it was good, it was just the break, make sure we get a good break so I can try to get the position I wanted. I didn't want to have to just get position that was left from some other horses. I want to make sure I go and I try to get what I wanted for my horse. And like I said, when I leave the gate, he was there for me. He helped me to get a position I wanted it. And after that, I really was just kind of sitting chill, waiting, biding my time to make sure I moved in the right time. And I mean, wow, when I asked him, he did respond very well for me.
Now he responded. And I said this as we were getting ready to connect with you here and getting you on the line, that I don't think Art Collector has ever gotten the respect of some of the other leaders in that older horse division, mainly because he hasn't necessarily won at the big tracks. I know he had that huge win, at Belmont, I guess, but he's been winning at some of the smaller tracks, and people don't look at him the same way. They will now.
Yeah, definitely. I just think, it's exactly like you say, just winning races in Charlestown. I don't think people really thought he was beating maybe not much horses in those fields, but I mean, any other races, he was in the Derby, I remember, and, he's been running against top horses before, and like I said, I thought for me, coming into the race, I thought he was the older guy in there that was really seasoned coming into this Pegasus. And I mean, like I said, he did show up the ability he has.
That's a great point. Is there an advantage to having a horse that is seasoned and has more experience over some of his rivals in a race, assuming that he also has ability? Is there an advantage there, Junior?
Yeah, I think, for sure it is. I just think, sometimes when you put pressure in older horses, they know how to handle that much better than, the other crop. There was they're 4-year-old now, but they just they were just 3, couple months ago, they were just 3. And like I say, just having an older horse who know how to handle a lot of, he already run a lot of races. And he know how to handle pressure from other horses in the outside or be between horses and all that. For me, that was a big advantage, and that's what I try to make his trip as smooth as I can, because I knew he could give me a good kick, and like I said, he did respond very well.
How big was this win for you at this point in your career?
Well, it means a lot. Like I say, it's been a lot of year. Been working a lot, trying to get, to get to ride those horses and those big races, and have been able to win one race like that for Mr. Mott. It's just been, really one of my highs in my career for sure. It just, like I say, for me, meant a lot, and I just think a lot of things are coming into place right now for me, and I just, trying to keep working to keep getting the success that I'm getting right now.
You're going to ride for Bill Mott again this afternoon in the Holy Bull Stakes. You'll be aboard the talented 3-year-old Rocket Can, who is 7-2 on the morning line. A horse that has one maiden win to his credit, but he ran really good last time out with Allowance Company. You weren't aboard for either of those two, but you were aboard for his first two starts. So you know the horse a little bit. What can you tell me about Rocket Can?
Yeah, I remember last summer, he was probably one of the babies that I got on when I came back from Florida, and I was very excited with him. I was very excited. I thought he had a lot of talent, even though Mr. Mott and me, we knew he's a horse that probably would need time and distance. He's like a late developer. So we kind of knew that, but at the same time, like I said, we knew he had talent, and I'm just very, very happy to get back on it. And, like if you look at the races, the last couple races when Mr. Mott stretched him out, you can see how his number progressed real quick, and I just think we're sitting in a good run today.
What makes that relationship work between you and Bill Mott? 'Cause it certainly seems to.
Well, I just think his confidence. He let me do my job, and I've been very lucky. I deliver it, and for me, I just think that I'm the lucky person right there, just to get to ride those horses, and just being very grateful. And like I said, I don't think, like I say, he gave me that so much confidence to ride his horses. I know what he wants, so I try to do that in the races, even if it's with first timer or older horses or horses coming from big layoffs. I know what he wants. I know what he expecting. So, I try to do that just to make sure, we help the horse, and at the same time, he gets what he wants from them.
There are certain jockey-trainer relationships in the sport, and I'm going to use John Velazquez and Todd Pletcher as a relationship. It gets to a point that it almost becomes a team with the two of you, and it certainly has with Johnny and Todd. And Johnny can go back and give Todd instant feedback on the horses after he rides them. Todd can give him instructions, but not necessarily tell him what to do, but have a conversation about how they would like the horse to be handled or the race to unfold. Has it gotten to that point with you and Bill Mott as well?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of those keys of our success. Is I get to work a lot of his horses in the morning, and we get, I get to give him a lot of feedback, what I feel, what I think about some horses, and sometimes I've been working horses, and I tell Mr. Mott babies, and I tell I think we need to run this horse. I don't think we can get him more ready and working the horse, but I just think he eventually will need one or two races, but working, I don't think we can get more out of him working in the morning. So we have to probably running and little by little get him ready, and get his mind into the game, and like I say, just been a great team work together. He listened to me, I listened to him. I still learning with him. It's many things that I learn every day with Mr. Mott when I ride in some horses for him that sometimes I don't even expecting, and he say, look, listen, this horse might do this, he might he might run this way, and I'm, like I say, probably in my mind reading the program, I'm not expecting that, and sure the horse run just like he said. So it's just just great to have work with somebody with that much knowledge, and be able to share thoughts about horses you ride in and races, and like I say, it does help a lot.
Visiting with jockey Junior Alvarado here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Junior, let's talk about the other three stakes races you're going to ride today. The Claiborne Farm Swale Stakes, you're in the Kitten's Joy, and you're in the Sweetest Chant. We'll start with the Swale. Keenu is the horse you're going to ride there. What can you tell me about Keenu?
He ran last time with me. We stretched him out, and it was in the Tapeta. I just think going back again to a little short distance, we'll have to see how it's a lot of speed in the race. That's one thing for sure I know. And my horse, he has a speed. I don't think he got that kind of speed that is right now in this race. So hopefully, I wish, I'm breaking from the inside, try to help him out of there, trying to put him in a good spot, trying to see if he doesn't get too much kickback. And like I say, it's a horse for me. We had to try to come from the back, I guess, just the way I think it's going to develop. And like I said, he's stepping up today in company, so we'll see how he's going to handle that.
Keanu is not trained by Bill Mott. He's trained by Juan Alvarado, spelled the same way as your name. Are you related?
Yes. No, we're not.
Well, you'll feel like family if you're standing in the winner's circle together after the swale today, right?
Definitely.
How about the Kitten's Joy? Tell me a little bit about the Kitten's Joy. That's a little different race, mile and the 16th on the turf. You'll be aboard Moon Cat.
I had the chance to talk to Chris Davis. I believe it was probably like 4 or 5 days ago, last Sunday. He was very, very high on this call. He told me, Junior, that's probably one of the best calls I ever had. And, I'm looking at the race, and the race, it's a very tough race in the turf. I saw the horse has a 46 workout last time in the turf and Palmetto. So, I don't think a lot of horses can work that fast, but, sure, he might have to have some talent to go that quick in the morning. So, it's another horse who's, stepping up in company big time, running. We're going to run today against horses like Major Dude, who's a horse who ran in the Breeders' Cup, finished just 3 lanes in the Breeders' Cup, and then, had another second after the Breeders' Cup, and just trying to give it the best trip we can. Turf racing sometimes it's not even the best horse, it's just whoever has the best trip, and that's for me what I try to do, and, pick as much horses as I can at the end.
Well, you'll try to do the same thing in race 11, the Swedish Chant, and this time you will ride for Bill Mott. That's Padma, filly that you know really well because she started 3 times. You've been her partner all 3 times. So tell me a little bit more about Padma.
Yeah, first time turf for her. If you look at her pedigree, I think she should be fine, handle the turf, but still, it's like it's going to be a new thing for her. Hopefully, like I say, if she handles the turf, she's going to be very competitive. We've been very high on her. She only, like I say, like you say, you only run 3 races, 2 second, 1 first. And last time she ran first time on a stake race going up in company after she broke her maiden end. She just got bit right there at 2 lengths. And, hopefully if she handles the turf, like I say, she's going to be very competitive in this group.
All right, that's race 11, the Swedish Chant. Again, Junior Alvarado is my special guest here on HRRN. Junior, I do have to ask you before I let you go about a very special moment in your career that it occurred, just about 2 weeks ago now when you reached the 2,000 win milestone. That is a big deal for any jockey. You talked earlier about putting in the work and continuing to grind it out, and you've done it, and now you've gotten to 2,000. Take me back to that moment. What did that mean, and what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was very excited, very, very meaningful moment for me. Like I say, for me, just one of the toughest things I have to, that I have in my career. It's been a lot of injuries, like for the first probably 7-8 years. And just looking back now when I'm getting to those 2,000 victory, it just reminded me that, I was, I'm really thankful to my family, to be honest, because I think I put it with a quick while ago, just having those many injuries. I remember having many times where I'm thinking like, well, this probably is not meant to be for me. Maybe it's just a sign for me to stop riding. And you get through that psychological thing, which is like, like really bothering you, making you think and maybe overthink too many things, and just having my family, my wife, my kids, and helped me. They did help me big time to get through all that. It was just, for me, this 2000 wasn't only meaningful for me, it was as much meaningful for my family and for my kids, just to be able to accomplish this many victories in my career.
Yeah, you're a wonderful family man. You're a class act, and you're a wonderful representative for the sport of thoroughbred racing, Junior. So I know myself, my wife, Michelle, we were both extremely excited when we saw you get that milestone. So congratulations, and keep it rolling. You got 7 mounts today. Let's see if you can kind of do your best Errad Ortiz and win all 7 of those. I know he did 7 in a row yesterday, but let's see if you can go 7 for 7 today.
Yes, that's why we're here. We work hard, and for sure one thing, we'll give it a good try in all those 7 horses today.
Yeah, good luck, Junior. Appreciate the visit, and safe trip every time you get a leg up.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, jockey Junior Alvarado here on HRRN. When I come back, I'll bring you your Kentucky bred update and take a look at a date or two in racing history. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
The National HBPA's annual conference is fast approaching, March 6th through the 10th at the Hotel Monteleone in New Orleans' historic French Quarter. Don't miss your chance to attend informative panels hosted by industry experts and a keynote address from Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry. The conference kicks off with a reception on Monday, March 6th and offers 3 days of panel discussions, presentations, and meetings along with Jeff Landry's keynote speech on Tuesday, March 7th. Attendees will also enjoy an outing at the fairgrounds for racing on Thursday, March 9th. For more information and registration, visit nationalhbpa.com/convention.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
My battle buddies and I attended the NHL Stadium Series at Yankee Stadium. We had never been there before, and 2 of us had never seen a hockey game. Man, we had the time of our lives. It was great therapy. VetTix, we can't thank you enough.
Every empty seat at a concert, a game, motorsports, or a play is a missed opportunity to say thanks to a veteran and service member. We can help. We can give our veterans a special event where they too can create their own cherished memories. Find out how by visiting www.vettix.org. That's www.vettix.org. Find out how you can make a difference in a veteran's life.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, an update on today's poll question. I was asking you which race today is most likely or more likely to produce a Kentucky Derby winner. The Holy Bull, the Robert B. Lewis, the Swale, and the Kitten's Joy. So far, 48% of you saying it is the Robert B. Lewis, the 4-horse field in California. All 4 of those horses trained by Hall of Famer Bob Baffert. Second, the Holy Bull with 39% of the votes. You can keep those coming at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, and email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Well, don't leave money on the table. Race and breed in Kentucky for lucrative opportunities like maiden special weight purses at Churchill Downs that were increased to $120,000 in 2022. Ellis Park is quickly becoming the best place to prep your 2-year-olds with purses of $340,000 per day, and maiden special weight purses at Kentucky Downs rose to $150,000, and the track offered 3 $1 million graded races with KTDF money included. While Keeneland maiden special weight purses were $100,000, Turfway Park is offering maiden special purses of $70,000 with substantial bonuses for runners registered with KTDF, and all stakes carry a $125,000 minimum, including the KTDF. Don't forget, too, you can reap the rewards. In addition to over $200 million that's been distributed to Kentucky breeders since 2006, and with purse money soaring and the KBIF contributing nearly $16 million to eligible breeders, as well as the fullest fields in the country, there is clearly no better time to race and breed in the Bluegrass. For more information, visit KentuckyBreds.com or KBIF.KHRC@ky.gov. Breed them, raise them, race them. We all win. No time for historical dates this week. We talked about one early in the show with Larry Collmus. You can go back and listen to the podcast at horseracingradio.net after we finish up. Hour 3 kicks off with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Vance Hanson will join me to give you 3 races you can keep an eye on later today. 10:20, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. And at 10:30, I once again welcome Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin for this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. If your local station is leaving us at this time, continue listening to the third hour on Sirius 216, XM 204 in Louisville, Kentucky on ESPN 680 or on your computer, phone, or tablet with live streaming at horseracingradio.net. Hour 3 of the Equine Forum is next, right after I pause 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
From the rail to your radio, this is the Horse Racing Radio Network.
This horse literally has been one of the easiest ones, the easiest good horse I've trained maybe in my whole career. I mean, he is literally flawless. He has no soundness issues, no health issues that you have to worry about. Horses have come through the barn that every morning you walk in and hope they're okay. With him, you just walk in and expect him to be okay.
Final 16th of a mile, and Cyclone Mischief is getting away. Nice performance here from the son of Into Mischief. Cyclone Mischief is in front.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
But it's Holy Bull winning like a champion with devastating ease. Holy Bull tied with the best horses in training. He wins by 5 lengths.
Messier turns it on at the top of the stretch, and he is making his mark on the 3-year-old crop. It's Messier putting on a dazzling display, opening up by 10, by 12. Messier all alone in the Robert B. Lewis Stakes.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Welcome back. Hour number 3 of the Equine Forum, barreling toward the finish line, but plenty more content still to come. Happy Holy Bull Day for all of you Holy Bull lovers like myself around the country and around the world. We get to celebrate Holy Bull with the Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream later today. You've heard plenty of conversation about that race in the first couple of hours of the program. We've also taken a look back at last Saturday's Pegasus World Cup and the Southwest Stakes, and looking ahead to the stakes races coming up later today. It is a really solid weekend of thoroughbred racing, and the road to the Derby, yeah, I know it's been ongoing since the fall of last year, right? That's when we kind of kicked things off at Churchill Downs with the couple of stakes races, Iroquois, I guess, and a couple of those early stakes races on the road to the Derby. But now we start to kind of say, all right, let's take the next step. How have we developed from 2 to 3? And we're starting to see the spotlight shine from the older horses last weekend back to the 3-year-olds again this weekend, and it's going to be a fantastic weekend to celebrate thoroughbred racing and to start to get a glimpse of who might be a contender, who might be a pretender along that road to Louisville. Don't forget, if you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the show or any of our shows throughout the week, all you have to do is go back to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can listen to the podcast at your leisure. You can also do that Horse Racing Radio Network on every major podcast platform. And don't forget to follow us on social media at HRRN on Twitter and Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Well, Hour 3 kicks off as it does every single week with this week's edition of the TwinSpires Triple Play. And to do the honors this week, I once again welcome Vance Hanson, who has selected 3 races you'll want to keep an eye on this afternoon and play any way you like, but just make sure you're playing them at TwinSpires. Vance, good morning. Appreciate the visit.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me back this weekend.
Yeah, I know you said you might be a little under the weather this morning. You're playing hurt here on the show, so I really appreciate that. Sometimes when you're not feeling well, you tend to handicap a little bit better. Maybe that'll be the case.
I hope that's the case, and if that does turn out to be the case, I don't mind being sick for a long time.
You're usually pretty good, so I can't imagine getting much better, but I'm looking forward to hearing your analysis of these 3 races. And you have selected the 10th race at Gulfstream Park, which is the Grade 3 Forward Gal, and then you've come back and selected the 9th race at Tampa Bay Downs, which is the Grade 3 Tampa Bay Stakes, and then race number 11 at Gulfstream Park will be the Grade 3 Swedish Chant. Those are the 3 races we're going to talk about. That is the way they fall in post-position order. So let's start, Vance, with that 10th race at Gulfstream, the Grade 3 Forward Gal. It is 7 furlongs on the main track for the 3-year-old fillies. How'd you see it?
Well, the filly I'm most intrigued by is number 9, Positano Sunset, who, although she is stepping up off of a maiden win into a graded stakes, she's been really battle-tested by some nice fillies already in her career. Debuting at Churchill last September for Ian Wilkes, she dueled into submission, ran 4th in that race, but the winner there was Pretty Mischievous, who went on to win the Untappable Stakes in late December at Fairgrounds, and who is a Kentucky Oaks prospect. Positano Sunset showed a lot more rating ability, second out at Keeneland, finishing second to Julia Shining. And, of course, Julia Shining is a potential star for Todd Pletcher after winning the Demoiselle at Aqueduct in December. Positano Sunset, to put it all together last time at Churchill in mid-November in a maiden race going 6.5 furlongs, stopped the pace, won well in hand, I thought, by a mile, up by a length and 3/4. Looked really good doing it, and I think she's going to get a nice pace set up here. There's a lot of speed in this Forward Gal to her inside. I think she can work on a pretty nice stalking trip from the outside under Julian LaPerue, and I think having been battle-tested against some nice fillies already, I don't think this class hike is going to present as many potential issues as it might otherwise have.
Yeah, interesting point, too, regarding the favorite in here. Number 3, Atomically, who comes out of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, ended up finishing 7th behind champion 2-year-old filly Wonder Wheel in that race. But her last 2 races have been at 1 1/16. She is now scaling back to the 7/8 of a mile for today's Forward Gal. I know she has a win at that distance, Vance, but do you kind of view that as being a little bit of a step back for this daughter of Gervin?
I mean, I think she's pretty flexible as far as distance is concerned. I don't think the cutback is going to prove much of a problem for her. I mean, and she has a versatile running style as well. It's just as a matter of her odds obviously being the favorite. She's not going to offer a whole lot of value here coming back out of that Breeders' Cup race, and especially with Pletcher and Jose Ortiz in her corner. So I was just kind of gravitating towards more of a price in this race, although Atomically certainly deserves some attention here.
Yeah, and you should get it, too, with your top pick, Positano Sunset, 9-2 on the morning line. Another horse in there that figures to take some play is just to her inside. That's number 8, Red Carpet Ready, the son of Oscar Performance, who is 2 for 2 to begin her young career. But Positano Sunset, number 9, is the top pick for Vance Hanson in race number 10 at Gulfstream, the Forward Gal. Let's move on to the second leg of the TwinSpires Triple Play. And, Vance, you're going to turn your attention across the Sunshine State to Tampa Bay Downs. The 9th race is the 1 1/16 turf event, the Grade 3 Tampa Bay. This one for the older horses, and figures to be a pretty good race. Who'd you come up with here?
Well, the horse I backed here is not going to be much of a price, but he's a horse I'm extremely excited to see back on the racetrack, and that's number 10, Chez Pierre. For those that may have caught the Henry Clark Stakes at Laurel last April, Chez Pierre turned in what I thought was one of the best performances by an older horse on the grass last year. even though, considering it was an enlisted stakes, I mean, he maintained his undefeated record at 5 races. He won by over 5 lengths for Arnaud Delacour. And I thought we had a potential star turf horse on our hand. We don't know how well Shea Pierre would have done if he had stayed healthy last year. Whether if he would have topped out at a grade 2 level or grade 3. But I do know I was looking forward to watching him in the dinner party stakes on Preakness Day at Pimlico. He was taken out of consideration for that, and he basically was on the sidelines the rest of the year with some issues that Delacour revealed in the fall. But I'm excited to see Shea Pierre back in this race. His works have been seemingly very good, returning for this race. He has a win over the Tampa Bay Turf Course and an allowance in his U.S. debut last year. So there are some pretty decent horses in here with some back class, Emmanuel Verbal among them. But if Shea Pierre is anywhere close to 100% for this race, I think we could see a nice performance.
All right, 5-year-old gelding Shea Pierre, number 10, 3-1 on the morning line, and Vance's top pick in the 9th at Tampa Bay Downs, the Tampa Bay Stakes. Back to Gulfstream Park we go, Vance, for the final leg in the triple play. It is the 11th race, which, as I mentioned earlier, the Grade 3 Swedish Chant, another turf race, mile and a 16th on the lawn. Who wins this one?
I like the 8 Heavenly Sunday for Brad Cox, who ships in from her base at Fairgrounds for this. Undefeated in 2 starts on the grass, broke her maiden by 7 lengths at Horseshoe Indianapolis in September, and then in an allowance at Keeneland late in the fall meet there. She was bottled up on the inside, turning for home, had to wait quite a while for some racing room, but once she got some room to run through, I mean, she kind of exploded there in this stretch, opened up and won by nearly 3 lengths in a very nice performance. And I like the fact that Cox kind of backed off of her, kind of waited and pointed to her for this 3-year-old season. Now, admittedly, there hasn't been too many spots for her since then, with the limited turf racing at Fairgrounds this winter, not much happening at Churchill last fall as well. But it's nice that he thinks enough of this filly to ship her all the way to Gulfstream for a Grade 3 event here. And I think she's got a lot of upside and potential. She does face some battle-hardened fillies here, Pletcher with the Cairo Concert, who placed in the Breeders' Cup and then won the Ginger Brew Stakes over the Gulfstream turf course last month. But I think Heavenly Sunday looks like good value here at 5-1 on the morning line.
Yeah, great price, and that Cozy Post number 8 should serve well, going a mile and a 16th on the grass there at Gulfstream. So 5-1 on Heavenly Sunday in the final leg of the TwinSpires triple play for Vance Hanson. Vance, I'm going to ask you to take me inside your thought process for a minute here, because oftentimes on this segment, yourself, Joe Christofek, Scott Shapiro, James Scully, we'll talk about who you like. And when we have a little extra time, as we do here this morning, I like to dive into the thought process behind why you like the horse. And you explained why you liked Heavenly Sunday, but I'm talking about more the numbers that are included in the Brisnet PPs. Are there certain numbers in the past performances that you start looking at when you're looking at a turf race or a sprint race or whatever the case might be, that you say, okay, this horse has to check this box, and this box if I'm going to like a horse based on numbers?
I don't know if there's anything specific number-wise. Obviously, when you're comparing things like speed ratings or late pace ratings, you want a competitive number, or you want to have the belief that this horse can step forward, or that horses that you don't really like can regress in a particular race. So it's kind of a balancing act where you have faith in the horse that you think fits in the particular spot, that they have the potential to run as fast as they have been or can take a step forward, but also feel that the opposition is vulnerable to regression.
Yeah, it makes sense. So it's kind of a blend. It's not just numbers, but there's a class angle, there's a trainer angle, a jockey angle, and all of that kind of comes together to lead you in the direction of your top pick.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Vance, listen, I really appreciate the conversation here this morning. Let me recap before I let you go. Race 10 at Gulfstream, you'll take number 9, Positano Sunset, as your top pick to kick things off, 9-2 on the morning line. The 9th race at Tampa, number 10, Chez Pierre at 3-1. And the 11th race at Gulfstream will wrap it up with number 8, Heavenly Sunday, 5-1 on the morning line. And as I always say, go to TwinSpires.com. Make sure you're doing that to bet those 3 races. Play them any way you like. But, boy, if you can just win the first one, let it ride on the second one, let it ride on the third one, that could pay off pretty handsomely.
That's always the plan, and hoping it happens.
Well, Vance, I appreciate it. Again, I know you played hurt here this morning. I appreciate you still doing the segment, and all the best at the windows. Good luck, and I hope you feel better.
Thanks, Mike. Talk to you later.
All right. Vance Hanson, this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. That's the thing. When you look at those horses, it's not like they're 20, 30-1, right? Every once in a while, those guys will give one out that's a bomber like that. And, of course, it's a low percentage play, but sometimes they hit. But you look at what Vance did. I think it was a neat strategy here this morning. 9-2, 3-1, 5-1. Those are horses that, look, even if they don't win, if you take Vance's insight and his advice and you tie those horses up in other wagers, I've told you many, many times, I love to play trifectas. That's my bet. I don't know why. Exactas, too. I enjoy exactas, but I really like trifectas. And I've done okay in some instances. Certainly not a head lifetime playing trifectas. But if you take those horses at those odds, they're competitive odds. They should be competitive in the race. If you can hook them up in maybe the top spot and the second spot and throw a few other horses with them, maybe even 4 or 5 horses, whatever your budget allows, and you can spread in the other positions with horses that are 9-2, 3-1, 5-1, you kick a 10, 12, 13-1 shot in there with them, and you're going to catch one hell of a trifecta. That's what I love about that segment. Vance and the other handicappers, they come on here, they give you horses that they think can run well and they hope will win those races. But don't be afraid to hook them up with other horses and use them in the other positions, not just on top, especially with odds like that. Go to TwinSpires.com to place your wagers and do it now and get in early. And so many great promotions taking place, too, so make sure you check that out when you're over there at TwinSpires.com. All right, coming up next, Kurt Becker takes you on his weekly stroll through racing history. It's going to be another fantastic story. I promise you that. It's a horse that quite often is a forgotten horse in our sport. He won't be forgotten here this morning. And then Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin come up at 10:30 Eastern with this week's edition of I Ask. They answer, and plenty of things to dive into with Dale and Tim in the final segment of the show. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with the gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Sam Houston's live thoroughbred meet runs through April 8th and features a new afternoon racing schedule for 2023 with racing Friday through Sunday and a first post at 1 p.m. Central. The meet is highlighted by the Houston Racing Festival on Saturday, January 28th, Texas Preview Day on February 18th, and Texas Champions Day, March 25th. Canadian racing fans are invited to play Sam Houston at simulcast outlets throughout Canada and on HPI Bet. For more information, visit shrp.com.
Curling, the classic sire.
They're off in the Derby City disdain. An obligatory, and it's got to be Clariere in the Tip Stakes. Nest, much the best. She won by better than 10 lengths in this coaching club. American Oaks, Cody's Wish, with the upset in the Fargo. And Malathon has won the Personal Ensign Stakes.
Curling, standing at Hill and Dale.
There's something for everyone this February at Laurel Park. Come watch live horse racing every Friday through Sunday and join us on Saturday, February 18th for the Winter Spectacular Stakes, featuring 6 stakes races and $900,000 in purses, including the Grade 3 General George and the Grade 3 Barbara Fritchie Stakes. Plus, don't miss out on special President's Day holiday racing on Monday, February 20th. Visit laurelpark.com for more info. That's laurelpark.com for more.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
And he's going to do it. McKenzie has won the Whitney. Speaker's Corner in a dominating performance, winning the Carter.
Maxfield to win the Claiborne Breeders' Futurity.
A trio of Grade 1 victories for Sons of Darley Stallion Street Sense, McKenzie in the Whitney, Speaker's Corner in the Carter, and Maxfield displaying his precociousness in the Breeders' Futurity. All three make for a powerful trio of Darley Taking the Reins Performers of the Week. Darley Stallion Street Sense, the sire of 3 Grade 1 winning sons to retire to stud in the last 3 years. In 2022, he had his highest yearling average yet and was the sire of a 7-figure yearling. Can you sense it? Learn more about Street Sense and all the Darley Stallions by visiting darleyamerica.com.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was a family-owned homebred and was named for a fly fishing term, and he became one of the richest geldings of all time. His name was Perfect Drift. Foaled on April 29, 1999, Perfect Drift was by Dynaformer from the NASCAR mare Nice Gal. He was bred by Dr. William A. Reed, a Kansas City heart surgeon, and Stonecrest Farm. The latter was actually the name of the 110-acre family farm owned by Reed and his wife, as well as their sons, daughters-in-law, and grandchildren. From the outset, Dr. Reed made clear that he wanted this to be a family racing and breeding venture. The name Perfect Drift was chosen from the world of fly fishing. A perfect drift is considered the ultimate fly fishing cast, accomplished when the fly lands in the water in such a fashion that it makes it appear natural to surrounding fish. The media loved learning this about the name, often working puns into headlines, such as Perfect Drift hooks a Grade 1, or Perfect Drift goes fishing for another stakes win. Reed had purchased Perfect Drift's dam at the 1993 Keeneland November breeding stock sale. He described her as light-boned and elegant, while he noted that Dynaformer was a horse stallion with good bone. And that was how the mating came to be, which resulted in the birth of Perfect Drift. As for Perfect Drift himself, he was described as a non-imposing and largely unremarkable type, bay in color. Hall of Fame jockey Pat Day, who would ride him in several of his races, said that Perfect Drift had a nice mind, a big engine, and that he gave it to you when called upon to do so. It was also said that Perfect Drift was a friendly type and that he liked jockeys. He generally seemed happy, often on his toes, frolicking and playful, whether in the paddock before a race or headed back to the barn afterward. As for his affection for jockeys, Perfect Drift seemed to work well with most every rider who climbed onto his back. He broke his maiden at the end of his 2-year-old season under Marlin St. Julian at Turfway Park. He won his stakes debut at the same track in January of his 3-year-old season with Tony D'Amico in the irons. By March 23, 2002, Perfect Drift was ready for his graded stakes debut. It would come in the Grade 2 Spiral Stakes at Turfway at 1 1/8 miles. He would be the third betting choice at post time, while Request for Parole was the 2-1 favorite. Request for Parole had beaten Perfect Drift in back-to-back races at Turfway, but trainer Murray Johnson was not concerned. He believed that Perfect Drift would improve over a longer distance of ground, and he also had Hall of Fame jockey Eddie Delahousie as his rider. It was Delahousie's first visit ever to Turfway Park, and he had agreed to leave his California base to come to the Northern Kentucky track because he and Johnson had been friends going back to Johnson's days as an assistant trainer in California to John Gosden. And so it was that Perfect Drift and Eddie D took their spot in the starting gate for the Spiral. Mike Battaglia gives us the call.
As they move for the stretch, Request for Parole a zillion.
Now gains ground from the inside. Those two are right together. Then gaining ground to the outside, that's Perfect Drift with a furlong to run. Request for Parole and a zillion. Perfect Drift on the outside. Those three to the wire. Request for Parole, a zillion. Perfect Drift. It's Perfect Drift with Eddie Delahousie getting up to win the Lanes End Spiral.
His victory in the Spiral on a day when Kentucky Governor Paul Patton presented the trophy was enough to earn Perfect Drift a trip to the Kentucky Derby. He would finish third in the Run for the Roses behind a pair of 20-1 long shots, War Emblem and Proud Citizen. As a 4-year-old in 2003, Perfect Drift would return to Churchill Downs to win the Grade 1 Stephen Foster handicap in his first race under Pat Day, defeating eventual Horse of the Year Mineshaft by a head. Tucked under his saddle that afternoon was a lock of hair from the tail of superstar gelding John Henry, a gift from the staff at the Kentucky Horse Park. Perfect Drift would also win the Washington Park Handicap, the Kentucky Cup Classic, and the Hawthorne Gold Cup that season in what the press called a victory tour of the Midwest. He was so dominant in each of those wins that the chart caller made the same two-word remark every time: ridden out. Perfect Drift would continue his racing career until Labor Day weekend of 2008. Retiring at the age of 9, he went to the sidelines with a record of 32 finishes in the money from 50 career starts for earnings of $4.7 million. He won on both dirt and turf, and at distances ranging from 6.5 furlongs to 1.25 miles. He also competed in an unprecedented 5 editions of the Breeders' Cup Classic, including a third-place effort at Belmont Park in 2005. The Reed family welcomed Perfect Drift back to their Kansas City farm upon his retirement, giving him a well-earned rest and a lifelong happy home. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
And once again, my thanks to Kurt and to Keeneland for making those segments possible each and every week. If you have missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, all you have to do is head back over to our website, horseracingradio.net. You can check out the special podcast page dedicated to those stories and listen to every single one. There have been some amazing ones. Go back and listen at horseracingradio.net. When I come back, Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, they will be here. It is this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Tenda Equine and Pet Care Products have been keeping world-class equine athletes happy and healthy for generations. Keep your equine athlete looking and performing well with Tenda Next Generation Wound and Skin Care Treatment, along with nutritional supplements, leg and muscle care products, salves, hoof care, poultice, topical aids, and grooming products. Visit tendahorse.com today.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
New to Coolmore America for 2023 is Jack Christopher. A son of top sire Munnings and a 3-time Grade 1 winner, Jack Christopher was an 8 3/4 length winner on debut at Saratoga at 2 before winning the Grade 1 Champagne with a whopping 102 buyer. His 3-year-old campaign included wins in the Grade 2 Pat Day Mile, the Grade 1 Woody Stevens by 10 lengths, and the Grade 1 H. Allen Jerkins. Jack Christopher stands at an introductory fee of $45,000. Call the team at Ashford today to book your mare before he fills up.
Grade 1 winner and track record setter Lee
Like their sire, his runners have excelled on both dirt and turf, including these standout performers.
Leading by 3, Gibberish and Dylan Davis.
Out of a Galileo mare, this dual-surface star has sired juvenile stakes winners on both dirt and turf. Lee, standing at Claiborne Farm.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Arabian Knight and Frosted Departure 1-2. Jace's Road has flattened out. So Arabian Knight and Frosted Departure are the two off the top of the turn. Arabian Knight a length in front of Frosted Departure in second. Here is Red Route 1 erupting from the back of the pack, but he is still 6 lengths behind his front running favorite, Arabian Knight. And now he's 4 in front. Red Route 1 might get second. He will not win the Southwest. That winner is Arabian Knight. Arabian Knight won by 6 lengths. Red Route 1 did get second. Frosted Departure third. Sun Thunder fourth.
That's Vic Stauffer with the call of last weekend's Southwest Stakes, where the Bob Baffert trained Arabian Knight dominated the competition and now has some people saying he's the next American Pharaoh. Are they right or wrong? Plus, today's Robert B. Lewis has attracted just 4 horses, all hailing from the Bob Baffert barn. How does California racing fix this enormous problem? And what are some of the most bizarre ways to lose a horse race? We'll talk about those topics and much, much more coming up on another loaded edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf writer Tim Wilkin, all presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program in the College of Business. And it's all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
Learn the business of horses in the world's only accredited equine business program, the University of Louisville Equine Business Program. The University of Louisville has a legacy of excellence educating and developing industry leaders for over 35 years. Classes are taught by industry experts in state-of-the-art facilities located in the heartland of America's equine industry. The University of Louisville Equine Business Program. When it comes to horses, we mean business. For more information, visit business.louisville.edu/equine.
Well, guys, each week we let listeners know that they can be part of this show by submitting topics or questions that they would like the two of you to discuss. And this week, we actually have 3 listener-submitted topics, and they come from all over the country. So we begin with topic 1, which comes via email from Dottie, who was listening to the show last week and heard my interview with trainer Ryan Hanson, who saddled the only horse not trained by Bob Baffert in last weekend's San Vicente Stakes at Santa Anita. It gets even worse today, as Baffert is guaranteed to win his 5th consecutive renewal of the Robert B. Lewis when he saddles all 4 starters in that race. That is music to the ears of Tim Wilkin, I'm sure. Guys, how does California racing fix this issue, and can it even be fixed? Timmy, let's kick it off with you.
You know, I don't know why everyone's going crazy about this. I mean, what is Baffert's supposed to do? He's got 3-year-olds that are ready to run. He's a trainer that gears his program towards the 3-year-olds. His owners want to run in these races. He had the 16 nominations, 14 were his. Okay. Well, what is he supposed to do? Say, okay, I'm not going to run some of them. You know, if people have a problem with it, you know, it's too bad. I mean, that's if you have the horses, you run them. You know, maybe the other trainers out there should get better 3-year-olds or try to get better 3-year-olds or gear towards these races. I'm a Baffert guy, but you know, I just don't. I would say the same thing if it was Doug O'Neill that had all 4 entries in there. If he has these horses ready to run, and he's you know, has a schedule for these horses to run in these races, what's the big deal?
No, it's not Bob's fault at all. I don't think anybody's pointing the finger at Bob. It's a much bigger, deeper-seated issue with the way it is in California right now. You know, one thing that hurts California and nobody ever talks about is not having Tex Sutton forwarding flying horses around. It's really difficult to get there if you want to go out and have a race. The only way you can get in and out is through FedEx and going through Memphis, and they change planes, and you can't fly your help with them anymore like you used to, so you don't know how they're attended to when they're in Memphis. It's a difficult thing to do is to get to California. they've always been on an island out there, but they used to have bigger purses than everywhere else, so there was some incentive to send your best horses out there. Now, the way the purse structure is in the Midwest and East Coast, there's just no reason to be going out unless you're sending horses to Bob Baffert for one simple program, and that's what he does best, get them on the Triple Crown Trail. I feel bad for the rest of the guys out there. I mean, they run for no money, and it's hard to get a horse out there.
But are you going to tell me that there's not any trainers out there that have 3-year-olds in their barns in California that they want to put on the Triple Crown Trail?
Well, they obviously don't have enough of them. They're all in one barn, but I mean, that's like you say, it's not an issue about Bob. I just don't think those guys have a lot of horses out there. I was talking to a prominent guy today in the game. I won't say who it is, and he just came back from out there. He said everybody's in panic mode. He said it's like desperation out there. It's depressing to be around, and he grew up out there.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Does this bring to light a bigger issue? And I agree with you guys. I don't think Bob should apologize for having an embarrassment of riches. I said that earlier in the show. What's he supposed to do? Not take the business when these owners want to send him these caliber of horses? He has to take the business. He has to have a barn full of these horses because that's what the owners want to do. But we see a lot of ownership groups now, big prominent syndicates and partnerships that come together to buy these quote-unquote elite horses and send them to elite trainers. Bob is just one of those. He happens to be the kingpin on the West Coast. But Dale, does that bring to light a bigger problem with the sport now? And I don't know how you change it, but owners coming together to buy up all of the top quality horses, send them to big-name trainers.
I don't think that's as big a deal. I mean, we've been dealing with that. You see it now with Rapoli and Vinny Viola, and guys are buying a bunch together, a big box of them. But, in the 80s, 90s, it was Sheikh Mohammed and all the Maktoums doing the same thing. And, they get horses we'd like to have, but it opens up for you to buy others.
Yeah, and I don't think the owner – I'm not blaming the owners. What's an owner supposed to do, right? An owner's supposed to defer his risk, and every owner that's come on this show over the years has said that same thing. The advice to a new owner, spread your risk. Get involved with smaller shares of multiple horses if you can. That's what these big syndicates are doing.
Yeah, and they're all looking for stallion prospects or the next Blue Hen Broodmare. They're looking at it a little bit differently when they get together and buy like that. They want to get on the Triple Crown Trail. They want to come up with the good stallion that for the year you have to. You buy that many horses and spend that much money, you better come up with a stallion.
Timmy, is this strictly a California issue, or is there a concern that maybe this scenario could start playing out at other tracks around the country?
Well, I don't think so. There's no Baffert in any other track around the country that has that barn of riches. Maybe
Pletcher.
A Todd Pletcher, a Steve Asmussen, hopefully a Dale Romans one day, or Chad Brown. I don't see it being a problem, at least right now in the East.
Yeah,
and Dale, the point you bring up about the purses in the eastern half and the Midwest part of the country right now, so strong that's where everybody wants to be. So you've got more players in the game in those areas. Am I right?
You're all right. And like I say, when you buy a yearling, I mean, unless you live in California and you want to be racing out there's really no reason to go west of the Mississippi. You can stay right here and run for a lot more money, and the foal crop is down. And I think that's the biggest problem. It's the lack of horses out there. They've got to figure out a way to get a better purse structure.
Yeah, how can they do it? Any ideas?
I don't know. They don't have the revenue off slot machines or casinos like these racinos around the country. That's what's generated most of the purse money, almost at least half of it in Kentucky and New York. I mean, I don't know what they have to do or how they could do it to entice people to go to the aggravation and trouble to have horses there.
Yeah. Well, Dottie, we appreciate that question there and that topic. We move on to another listener-submitted topic. And, again, if you want to submit your questions or topics for Dale and Tim to debate every week, simply email them to me at mike@horseracingradio.net. All right, topic 2 comes from John in St. Louis, who writes in and says, perhaps more than any other sport, horse racing is a game of what-ifs. Between injuries, retirements, and other decisions that are made by human connections, fans have been left with many what-ifs over the years. And John says a particular one that sticks out to him is, what if Rachel Alexandra raced a day later on the first weekend in May in 2009. So, guys, I'm going to ask you, what are some of your favorite racing what-ifs if you were really to sit down and think about what could have been? Dale?
Well, first of all, I'll answer the question. We would have had 4 fillies that have won the Kentucky Derby if Rachel Alexander had run in the Derby. But I'll take some what-ifs. What if Flightline was able to run it 2, and we could have seen him on the Triple Crown Trail? How would that have changed the dynamics of that year?
That's a good
one. Yeah. Or, I had another one. I forgot about it. Let's see. What if all the little racetracks had survived in New England? There was 18 at one time, I believe. I don't think there's one there anymore. How much better would things have been right now? You could go through what ifs all day long in horse racing.
Timmy?
What if Zayat had sent me American Pharoah?
He wouldn't have gotten beat in the Travers.
No, that's right. Not by me anyway. I wouldn't have run something against him.
Timmy?
Well, there are a lot of what ifs, of course. I mean, one that's, to piggyback off Dale, I mean, what if Flightline was still in training? What might he have done this year? And how much more interest could horse racing have gotten if Flightline was still running this year? That's one that I would like to see. I'd love to see that answer, but obviously we won't. Another couple what if Barbaro hadn't broken his leg in the Preakness? What might have he done? Maybe he would have won a Triple Crown. And to keep with a 3-year-old theme, what if I'll Have Another wasn't scratched the day before the Belmont? Maybe he would have been the first Triple Crown winner since '78. He'd won the Derby and the Preakness, both not as the favorite, but that sore left foot ended his career. I mean, we'll never know, would he have been the Triple Crown winner? And one more, another 3-year-old one was, what if Tiz the Law hadn't been in the COVID year? I mean, when he was so good after that Florida Derby, and then he had to wait until the Triple Crown started with the Belmont in June. 3 months later, he won that at 1 1/8, but then he won the Travers, and then he lost in the Derby to Authentic. And then I think, he ran a good race in that, but I always wondered what would have happened if the Triple Crown was on the regular schedule and Tiz the Law would have been able to run in the Derby on the first Saturday in May after, because he was really good coming out of Florida. So that's another question I would have loved to have been able to have seen answered.
Yeah, I'll give you one since we're celebrating the Holy Bull Stakes at Gulfstream today. What if Holy Bull never got hurt in the Don Handicap? Would we have been talking about Cigar the way that we talk about Cigar? I think that would have been one hell of a rivalry. And, of course, I have to bring that up because I'm a massive Holy Bull fan.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
And also, what if Spectacular Bid in his Belmont?
Yeah.
If it was the nail or whatever it was. I mean,
what if Angel Cordero had ridden him's the question?
There you go.
Yeah. How many of those are there? I mean, you could go on and on. We could spend a full hour looking back on those. It's a fantastic question, and we really do appreciate that topic being sent in by John in St. Louis. John, thanks for listening to the show and for the kind words that you sent along with that email, too. We all appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to our friend Nick Zito with this week's edition of Right or Wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right
3 topics. You guys will tell me if I am right or wrong. Number 1, well, Bob Baffert, his Arabian Knight, immediately drew comparisons to Triple Crown winner American Pharoah after he crushed what appeared to be a talented group in the Southwest Stakes at Oaklawn last weekend. In a recent poll on our Twitter page, 75% of voters said Arabian Knight is not the next American Pharoah. Guys, are they right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Timmy?
Well, that's. I think they might be right on this one because eventually he might be. I mean, it's hard to, as D. Wayne Lucas would say, to bronze him and put him in the infield after 2 starts. I mean, this is a horse. that's dominated in both his career starts. I mean, he broke his maiden by 7+ lengths, and then went right to the Southwest and on the sloppy track and won by 5.5. You know, he's obviously got plenty of talent, but to put him in the same category as American Pharoah right now, I think is just wrong. I mean, it's he might eventually, who knows? Maybe if he keeps going the way he is, and he has all the ability, maybe we will be addressing that, you know, in a later segment on this show. But as for right now, I would say, yeah, he's a darn good racehorse, but I think he's still got much to prove. But he's on his way. But let's not call him the second coming of American Pharoah just quite yet.
No, I think you're right, Tim. He's just way too early to start comparing him to a Triple Crown winner. I'm a huge American Pharoah fan. He was such an impressive horse, and not just yet. They're getting a little ahead of yourself. You want to start comparing him to him. But I know that they love him a lot. I know Bob said he told me how good he was a while back, and Johnny took off all his horses over here on Pegasus Day. He had him out in almost every race to go over there and make sure he rode him. So I know he thinks a lot of him.
Yeah, I had a chance to catch up with John Velazquez earlier in the show. That podcast will be out there after we finish up at 11 o'clock. Dale, I'm going to come to you first with this next right or wrong topic because you and I spent an extended period talking about it on Trainer Talk this past week. On Tuesday, HISA suffered its latest setback when the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals again denied a request by HISA and the FTC to put the brakes on the appellate court's ruling that HISA is unconstitutional. Does the Fifth Circuit Court have this, right or wrong?
What do you think? Right or wrong?
You know, that's a complicated question because I don't understand the law, to tell you the truth. So they must have it right. I have faith in our legal system. But when HISA gets up and enacted and it changes what it has to change to become constitutional, it's going to be better and stronger for doing all the right things and being challenged, I think. When you challenge them and you make them get it right, and you make them do it constitutionally, it'll be a good thing for us in the end.
Good point.
You know, I need a lawyer to come explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old because I'm not well versed in law, obviously, either. But, you know, HISA is supposed to be the law, right? And everybody wants the sport to be better. And when HISA came along, this was supposed to be what's supposed to make the sport better. So I think that you have to respect what they are and abide by what they want to do. And that's about what I have to say on that. Because again, I'm about as well versed in law as I am in making souffles.
Yeah, we know how fond you are of doing that, Timmy. And I agree with you guys. I mean, it was a tough question, and I threw it out there just because it was such major news this week. But, yeah, I mean, none of us are attorneys. None of us are versed in that side of it. But, Dale, you bring up a wonderful point that, you know, the more that the organization goes through this process of making sure that things are done constitutionally, once that fight is over and once they are in line constitutionally with the way it's supposed to be done, I think you might see HISA gather a lot more momentum with the industry now, and people say, all right, we can live with this. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think HISA will be better for it. Listen, it's the oldest sport in America. Hopefully they're governing us for the next 100 years, so let's get it right now.
Yep. All right, one more right or wrong before we get to our final topic and then your parting shot of the show. Dale, I know how much you love polls, so I'm going to bring up the fact that Cyclone Mischief, who runs in today's Grade 3 Holy Bull, didn't even make the top 20 in the first NTRA top 3-year-old poll this week. If I were to say that a win in today's Holy Bull still might not be enough to convince voters to get him into the top 10, Dale, would I be right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong.
I would hope you were wrong. Step on Nick. I step on Nick every week. I would hope you were wrong. I hope that people start respecting him. I think he's going to run a huge race today, and he sure is training well. But, you know, the goal is not to worry about a poll, is to be in the top 20 on the first Saturday in May.
Well, I am one of the voters on that poll, and I didn't give any love to the Cyclone. I'm going to play a wait and see game on this one. I mean, this is no offense, but it's not the most sexy Holy Bull we've ever seen. I mean, none of the horses in there have any Derby qualifying points yet, and I believe there's only 2, Dale's horse being one of them, that have even competed in a graded stake. If Cyclone Mischief were to run a hole in the wind and come out of this race with some impressive resume kind of deal on this, I think I might let him sneak into my top 10 maybe, because then he'd be on the major. If he were to win this race, then he's one of the players moving forward in the Florida Series. So Dale, get a win there, and I'm going to put you in.
There you go.
Yeah, Timmy, that's probably a better way. I probably should have phrased it in that fashion. What does Cyclone Mischief need to do to convince voters to get into the top 10? And as you just said, a powerhouse effort in the Holy Bull would certainly go a long way toward his chances. That is, I ask, they answer, our special topic, right or wrong, that we bring your way every week here on the show. One more topic to get to before we get to Dale and Tim's final point of the week, and that topic comes your way from UPI turf writer Bob Kiekeffer, who last Saturday at Gulfstream pointed out that Dale showed everyone that no matter how many times you get beat, you can always come up with a new way to do it. And in Saturday's second race, Junior Alvarado was riding Dale's Kentucky Joker, and the right stirrup webbing broke just as the gate opened, and there was absolutely nothing that Junior could do. And even with that, he only finished second last, ahead of the favorite Foxburg. So, guys, what are some of the most bizarre ways you have ever lost or seen someone lose a race? And Dale, because this was you, I'm going to start with you first.
Well, that was one of them, but another one was one we've talked about on the show before, when the deer ran out on the racetrack at Turfway Park.
Yeah.
And tripped the horse. And that was pretty bizarre. And then one time at Ellis Park, one of the big umbrellas that was on a picnic table, the wind caught it and blew it right in front of the horses. And that, I don't know if it cost them or not, but I think I used that for an excuse. And then probably one of the best was a horse you might remember, Williamstown. He was the last one to load at Churchill. He was a heavy favorite. And they put the second to last horse in. The gate man sprung the latch and left him standing behind the gate.
Wow.
So that would be a pretty bizarre way to go.
Yeah.
Timmy?
Well, I remember it was 87, the year after she was Horse of the Year, Lady's Secret, in the final race of her career up at Saratoga. Was the first race of the day. And she bolted and went right to the outside rail. And it was, she was retired subsequently after that. And it was almost like she was saying, this is my 46th start. I don't want to do this anymore. She was 3-10, but she obviously did not want to race anymore. So she was telling Dwayne Lucas to put me in the shed. And that was always kind of bizarre to me, the way that she went out. And another one, this horse gave you 100 reasons why crazy losses. Zippy Chippy. He went through his career, never won a race. He found ways to lose 100 times.
Even to baseball players.
He became one of the most famous horses because he lost all the time.
Yeah,
I think the only time he won, he raced against a baseball player twice. He beat one at 50 yards, lost in 40. And then he also beat a harness horse after spotting the harness horse like a 20-length lead. But Zippy Chippy found a way to lose every race.
Yeah, there are so many stories like that out there. And earlier in the show, we took a look back at jockey Nate Hubbard, who didn't win a race on February 3rd, 1989 at Golden Gate Fields, but I think it's one of the greatest saves we have ever seen in the sport. He was second, and that was the race where his mount, Sweetwater Oak, tossed him over the head of the horse, took kind of a turn coming down to the wire. He flipped over the head, like going over the handlebars, and held on to the horse's neck. His feet never touched the ground. He crossed the finish line second. He didn't win. But, guys, I think you have to say that's probably one of the greatest saves we've ever seen in the sport of thoroughbred racing.
That was good.
I can't believe it's that long ago.
Yep.
Yeah, February 3rd, 1989, when Nate Hubbard pulled off that feat. Larry Collmus joined me earlier in the show to look back on it. Larry had the call when he was calling at Golden Gate, and now here he is calling the Triple Crown and the Breeders' Cup for NBC. Pretty cool stuff. All right, one final topic before we wrap up the show. Not even a topic, but your chance, guys, to throw out your final point of the week. Can be anything you like racing-related. Timmy, why don't you take it first?
Okay, I'm a little late on this, but belated congratulations to Junior Alvarado, Tyler Gaffleone, and Florent Giroux, who all reached the 2,000 win plateau in the last couple weeks. And, well done for those guys, and I'm sure they've got plenty more of them left in the saddlebag.
Yeah, and what I want to do, I want to congratulate Gulfstream Park on putting on a great show last weekend. It was a wonderful day of racing. They had good races, and everybody was happy, having fun. There was a good energy around there. We get on them all the time when they do things wrong, but I want to congratulate them about putting on a good show last weekend.
Did you go to the concert?
No, I missed the concert. So, I quit drinking. Right? I quit drinking. I don't like concerts as much as I used to.
Dale's going to come out of retirement from the drinking side of things if he wins the Kentucky Derby, right or wrong?
You'd be right there.
I think you'd be right as well. 4-5.
Well, Dale, I hope I'm there to drink with you, my friend. Let's go get the Holy Bull later today. Good luck there. And Timmy, good luck at the windows this weekend, and we'll do it all over again next week, guys.
All right, thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Mike.
Good luck, Dale. Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin. If you have a topic you want to hear them debate or a question for them to answer on the show, email it to me, mike@horseracingradio.net. And just like I did for our 3 listeners this week, I will go ahead and work that in for you on future shows. I Ask the Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business. I'm back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Hi, Tony. Hey, Matthew. There's a reason why Tony's Steaks and Seafood is my favorite restaurant. It's because I want to feel part of the family. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. There's a saying on the wall that I truly believe in. There's always room for one more at our table. We just want you to be part of our family.
And believe me, you will be. It's Tony's Steaks and Seafood right across from Triangle Park. Visit them at TonySteaksandSeafood.com.
I'm William Shatner. I've been around a long time, but I'm truly humbled when I see the real battles our brave, paralyzed veterans have faced defending our freedom.
I was on a routine patrol, and we were in the desert of Kuwait, and the vehicle flipped and landed on top of me, which left me paralyzed from the waist down.
Okay, folks, this is heroism. That's why I'm proud to support Paralyzed Veterans of America. Go to PVA.org to learn how you can make a difference.
In honor of all those we've lost to cancer and those still fighting and thriving, like basketball analyst and cancer champion Dick Vitale.
I want to beat cancer. I'm going to beat it. That's no doubt in my mind. I'm going to win this battle.
Defeating cancer will take all of us. Join our team to help fund game-changing research that saves lives. At the V Foundation, V is for victory over cancer. V is for victory over the odds. V is for victory over health disparities, victory over setbacks, victory over the unknown. V is for victory over giving up.
Don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Donate to the V Foundation to join our team and help save lives.
Cancer can take away all my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind, it cannot touch my heart, and it cannot touch my soul.
100% of donations fund game-changing cancer research. Donate now to the V Foundation at v.org.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding. Whoa! Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woo-hoo. Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Well, don't forget to check out bloodhorse.com and Blood Horse Magazine for the latest stories and up-to-date information on the sport of thoroughbred racing, and take advantage of their winter special still ongoing. Visit bloodhorse.com and download the Blood Horse app today. What a show, huh? That was busy, but really covered a lot of ground. Had a chance to catch up with so many special guests, including Hall of Famer John Velazquez. You heard from Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin in that last segment, and some really insightful things talking about the situation facing California racing and the short fields and the situation with seemingly Bob Baffert having all the top 3-year-olds at this point. How do they correct it? Is it correctable? Go back and listen to the podcast of that segment. You'll be able to find out. My thanks to Vance Hanson for the TwinSpires triple play, and to Kurt Becker for that stroll through racing history about perfect drift. That was really a neat story here this morning. If you missed any portion of the show, you know what to do. Head back to the website, horseracingradio.net, to check out the podcast. And, of course, you can do that on every major podcast platform. Follow us on social media as well, at HRRN on Twitter, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. Thanks to all of you for tuning in here, and thanks for participating in the poll question this morning. You can still keep those votes coming on our Twitter page and on Facebook. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studio, and to Chauncey for handling all of our social media, as always, here this morning. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening. Why not? Go Steelers.